And today will be no different, as I will be having a HIV positive youth activist. Her name is Jerop Alimo, and she will be talking about HIV, sexual and reproductive health rights. And then we'll also have the Madam Boss herself, Esther Akoth Kokeo, well known as Madam Akothe. Today she won't be talking about her music, no, but she will be talking about her as the brand ambassador, Uganda, Kenya tourism. You definitely want to stay on board for that. Victor, good morning.
Good morning. You've talked about the reason why people are happy today. I am the reason.
What did you do?
I am the reason why you are happy, all of you. Can all of you remember trapezium?
Yes.
Yes.
An isosceles triangle?
Yes.
Yes.
I have never seen, or I've never gone to where Nyika Plateau is. Has anyone gone to Nyika Plateau?
Have you been to Yatta?
Yes.
I think Yatta, back in the day, for those of us who did GHC, Yatta was a plateau.
I'm talking about Nyika Plateau.
Nyika Plateau, I've never been.
For those who did social studies, I don't remember that.
Okay. All right. So that is the reason why we are happy. All right. So welcome to the program. I'm Victor Lowe. We have a packed up show today. At the top of the hour, we'll be unpacking the reason why there is a discussion between Ketraco and Adani Group. The deal between Adani Group and Ketraco. Remember the discussion and the politics about it in the country, the issue of taking over Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, as well as construction of high voltage power line. I will be discussing that with the managing director, that is Engineer John Mativo, who is the managing director of Ketraco. He'll be here to just help us to understand what is the story behind the Adani and Ketraco in the country. And then slightly later on, I'm talking matters education. That's why I'm talking about trapezium. I'm talking about isosceles triangle, etc., etc. The gentleman who will be joining me on studio is Professor Emmanuel Mutisia, who is the chair of Kenya Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. I also want to take a look at that in details. That's around 7:30. Would you please just stick around with me? But before then, Maria Mbo is going to do whatever she is supposed to do at this point. Marie, good morning.
A very good morning to all of you. You left me there. I'm still trying to digest why we are happy. And it's because of you.
I just said I'm the reason why all of you are happy. You see, you're smiling because I just said.
Nisawa too, but I'm also happy to be alive, to be healthy. You know, God has given us another day. Yeah, so all that is good, and we are all connected, you know that. Yes, so when you're happy, we also, you know, get to absorb that at the same time. So a very good morning to you from wherever you're joining us. My name is Marie Yambo, and definitely I'll be bringing you up to speed with Matters News. And coming up in this news bulletin this morning, it was not administrative but intimidation. I beg your pardon, it was administrative and not intimidation, that is. Acting police boss Gilbert Masengeli says on withdrawal of security for judge who sentenced him. And President William Ruto chairs the first cabinet meeting of the broad-based government. And later on in sports, Kenya risks World Anti-Doping Agency sanctions for non-compliance following a 93% budget cut. All that coming up in the news this morning, so stay with us if you can, just after this short break. Very well, the National Police Service has denied a plot to intimidate judges following the withdrawal of bodyguards assigned to Justice Lawrence Mugambe, terming the move administrative. Acting Inspector General of Police Gilbert Masengeli says the service made necessary arrangements to ensure the safety of Justice Mugambe, that it is guaranteed even after recalling the 2 bodyguards assigned to him for training. And Timothy Kipnusu reports Masengeli, however, did not comment on his 6-month jail term handed down by Justice Lawrence Mugambe.
Acting Inspector General of Police Gilbert Masengeli has defended the National Police Service against accusation that it is actively undermining the independence of the judiciary. Masengeli is on the spotlight for skipping court summons and an alleged attempt to retaliate against his sentencing.
Contrary to the allegation by the Judicial Service Commission yesterday that the security details assigned to the Honorable Justice Mukambi has been thrown to intimidate the charge, we wish to clarify that allegations were ill-intended.
On Monday, Chief Justice Martha Koome demanded the reinstatement of Justice Lawrence Mugambi's security, accusing the police of attempting to intimidate judges. Masengeli, in his defense, has maintained that the service had made necessary arrangements to ensure the absence of the said officers does not lead to a security lapse.
The two security officers in question are general duty officers, and they were therefore recalled to attend VIP protection security training, and also were replaced by two VIP protection officers from the Judicial Police Unit.
I strongly condemn the intimidation of Honorable Justice Lawrence Mugambi. We must all take cognizance of the appeal processes provided in our laws for any party who feels dissatisfied with a court ruling, rather than resort to revenge missions against the judiciary. Such actions, Mr. Speaker, not only seek to undermine the authority of the courts, the administration of justice, but also suggest that judicial decisions can be influenced by external factors other than the law.
Masengeli is facing a 6-month jail sentence handed down by Justice Mugambi after he allegedly failed to honor court summons. Masengeli says he had been on assignment in the coast and the northeastern regions on the said dates.
It is in the public domain that at the time the Inspector General was summoned to appear in court, he was actively involved in security assessment in the coast and northeastern regions in compliance with the duties that are assigned to him.
The acting Inspector General is holding fort for a substantive police boss whose nomination is set to be considered by Parliament soon.
Mambo yaliyo kotini hatuongei kwa mitandao. Asanteni.
Now, President William Ruto on Tuesday chaired the first meeting of the newly constituted cabinet at State House, Nairobi. The president told cabinet members to participate in issues related to their ministries and in matters of national importance. He also advised the cabinet meetings that the committees must take precedence over other engagements.
At the first meeting of the new cabinet under the broad-based government, members were informed that progress had been made on pledges the president had made to the country when he appointed the team, including digitization of public procurement to make it transparent and digitization of the government payroll to eliminate incidences of ghost workers. On the various bills aimed at strengthening accountability in government and the fight against corruption, the meeting was informed that the Attorney General was taking action to ensure that necessary amendments are forwarded to Parliament. The Cabinet was also briefed on the ongoing rollout of the Social Health Authority. Already, 1.2 million Kenyans have registered, while 9 million registered under the National Health Insurance Fund will transition to the new Social Health Authority. The Minister of Interior was directed to help in public education on registration and health benefits through the National Government Administration offices. Additionally, the government committed to ensure that fertilizer will be available in time for the long rain season next year. Already, 522,000 bags of subsidized fertilizer have been procured and distributed for use during the short rain season in central, eastern and western Kenya regions.
Now, a section of the opposition wants President William Ruto to immediately order the withdrawal of the new university funding model, terming it an affront to the right to education. Led by NARC Kenya party leader Martha Karua, the group also took issue with the government's track record on human rights, economy and debt management.
A day after President William Ruto set up a technical team to look into the contentious issues contained in the new university funding model, the opposition now wants the model dropped in its entirety. In their assessment of Kenya Kwanza's 2 years in office, The leaders argued that the model does not only threaten the constitutional right to education, but will also create societal imbalances.
The VSLF model is not just a policy failure. It is an ideological assault on the most vulnerable among us. This shift from public responsibility to private burden is nothing less than a transfer of wealth from the powerless to the powerful.
Today we stand not merely at crossroads, but at the precipice of a profound danger. A moment that demands our courage, our unity, our unyielding resolve to reclaim the destiny that is rightfully ours.
The leaders led by NAK Kenya Party leader Martha Karua, former Minister Muhisa Kitui and Third Way Alliance Party leader Ekuru Okot also took issue with the implementation of the Social Health Insurance Fund, claiming it was a superficial remedy to the myriad challenges affecting Kenya's health sector.
We cannot, in good conscience, allow our people to suffer and die from preventable causes while funds are misallocated and mismanaged. It smells of cartels, and indeed legitimizes cartels in the health sector.
They decried the high cost of living that common households continue to bear, calling on government to contain public debt.
Inflation gnaws at the lifelines of our citizens. With food inflation soaring to a staggering 15%, the basic act of feeding one's family has become a daily struggle for survival. The Kenyan shilling's precipitous fall against the US dollar erodes the mega earnings of hard-working Kenyans.
They have also called on President Ruto's administration to deal decisively with corruption while observing human rights and constitutional principles.
A government's foremost duty is to safeguard the welfare of its citizens, and especially their fundamental rights and freedoms as provided by our foundational principles in Article 10 and the Bill of Rights.
The clandestine dealings with foreign entities, shady entities, such as the 30-year concession of our Jomo Kenyatta International Airport to Adani for a mere $1.8 billion, betray our very sovereignty.
Now, doctors at Nairobi Hospital maintain that their go-slow, which started at midnight on Monday, is on, with the medics only attending to critical cases and not making new admissions. Speaking on Tuesday, the doctors vowed to continue pushing for what they termed as a need for urgent reforms in the hospital's management. Here is Joseph Wakongo with the details.
We wish to inform all our stakeholders, partners, clients, and general public that the doctors of the Nairobi Hospital are not on strike.
A day after the Board of Management at Kenya Hospital Association downplayed the planned industrial action by doctors at Nairobi Hospital, the Admitting Staff Association representing the hospital's doctors maintain their go-slow is on.
We have had a problem in Nairobi Hospital, running over one year now, and I don't need to go over the causes of that. But this is a fight that we must have to save the hospital.
The clause by which any board member should not have any pecuniary interest, no financial deal in the hospital has been totally neglected.
On Tuesday, the doctors claimed they will not admit new patients at the facility until a fresh board is in place.
And if we say we appointed you, we didn't appoint you to be paid, and you paid yourself, and we don't want you, that's the end. It's as simple as that.
The board should not behave as if it's a permanent owner of the association. No, they've been elected to the association. The very people who elected them have the powers to remove them.
The doctors who accused the board of instigating a crisis in the governance at the hospital now want members of the public to join their clamor for change in the management.
I urge the public now, as it is already in the public domain, to come forward, support us, and see that if we can take it to the same height again.
According to the doctors, services at the Nairobi Hospital have continued to deteriorate over the last 1 year, while efforts to address their grievances have been ignored.
Chief Justice Martha Koome has called on African courts to uphold impartiality and transparency to safeguard constitutional principles and ensure justice for all citizens. During her keynote address at the All Africa Judges and Juries Summit in Nairobi, Koome stressed that judicial power should not be wielded in favor of any particular group, but rather to uphold the rule of law and protect constitutionalism. Ben Chumba reports.
Chief Justice Martha Koome has stressed the importance of impartiality, transparency and independence within Africa's judicial systems. Addressing African judges and jurists in Nairobi, Koome's message was clear. African courts must remain steadfast in their commitment to justice for all.
No matter whatever decision they make, there is always a backlash against the court for merely interpreting the law and the evidence before it.
The Chief Justice emphasized that the judiciary must remain free from political influence and external pressure if it is to fulfill its duty of curbing abuses of power and safeguarding democracy.
The essence of judicial power is not to serve the interest of any group, but to protect constitutionalism and uphold justice. Objectivity in adjudication fosters public confidence in the judiciary.
But independence, Koome warned, must extend beyond mere freedom from external interference. She highlighted the need for financial autonomy, urging African governments to ensure their judiciaries are adequately funded so they can effectively deliver justice.
Judiciaries of Africa cannot get a percentage of the GDP, so that, because if you do not have budgetary allocation, you cannot hire judges, you cannot have the infrastructure, you cannot give judges the tools of trade that they require to be able to discharge their mandate. We asked ourselves, why are judiciaries in Africa children of a lesser God?
Regardless of the status or position of those involved, the judiciary must and can hold even the highest offices accountable to the law.
We must call on all Africans to stand up for this principle. When the judiciary is under attack, democracy is under attack. It is a struggle that requires constant vigilance and commitment.
As the summit continues, Koome's word served as a clarion call to African judges to uphold justice and accountability, helping pave the way for a future rooted in democracy and human rights.
Thank you, Ben Chumba. Now to the scales of justice. Over 30 members of the County Assembly from Wajir and Mandera counties have filed a habeas corpus at Milimani High Court in Nairobi regarding the alleged abduction of Dela Ward member of County Assembly, that is Yusuf Hussein, last Friday. Now the leaders say efforts to trace Hussein have been futile and they now want him produced in court dead or alive. Details in the scales of justice.
Exactly 5 days since the Delaware MCA of Wajir County Assembly Yusuf Hussein went missing in the capital city of Nairobi. Leaders from Northeastern region claim he was abducted along Enterprise Road on 13 September 2024 at around 9 p.m. while aboard a taxi.
At a gunpoint, they forced the driver to stop the vehicle and they drove away with our colleague.
Tunataka serikali kwa sababu hawa ndio watu wa security watutafutia vijana wetu, mheshimiwa, na vijana wetu wote waletwe, kama wako na hatia waletwe kotini.
Led by Wajir County Assembly Speaker Abdullah Yusuf, they expressed confidence that the courts will help unearth the whereabouts of the missing MC after security apparatus failed to do so.
Every day that goes without us having any information about him is troubling to us, is a very big concern to his community, is a very big concern to his electorate, and is causing instability in the Wajir County.
We are not living in the era or the times where laws are ignored. We are not living in the dark era of arbitrary decisions and unchecked power.
The county assemblies of Mandera, Wajir, Garissa have indicated here they have trust in the law and in the due process, and that is why they have instructed me to go to court.
Even as the details for the missing Dela MCA remain to be scanty, the leaders and the MCAs are calling for transparency in the whole exercise in locating their loved ones.
Elset Makadara Locos in Nairobi, Lucinyo Kabi Mathenge took a plea after numerous postponements. She is accused of obtaining 640,000 shillings for the sale of a parcel of land in Ruai, which is allegedly part of the Embakasi Ranching Company. Makadara Principal Magistrate Mary Njagi ordered a release on condition that she deposits a cash bill of 100,000 shillings.
Na obtaining by false pretense. So, huwezi peana board kuliko ile amount unadaiwa.
Well, for me, I think there was mischief. There was mischief somewhere. But finally, I'm happy that plea has been read because that is what we wanted.
Pre-trial is set for 23rd October 2024. Ruth Wamboi for Good Morning, Kenya.
Thank you, Ruth. Now, police are investigating an incident that resulted in injuries to two journalists while they were covering a fire incident at Roto Tank Company. Fred Mochama, a cameraman from KBC, and Victor Mogoa of K24 were allegedly assaulted by staff from the said company as they attempted to document the unfolding situation. Now, the confrontation not only left the journalists injured, but also caused significant damage to their cameras. The journalists reported the assault at Ruben Police Station. The incident raises concerns about the press freedom, the right to access to information, and the safety of journalists in the line of duty.
Destruction of property. The response was so quick. I want to thank all the teams who assisted us.
Well, that's where we end the news this morning. Thank you so much once again, as always, for your company. My name is Marie Yambo. My colleague Victor Lo is just next to me right here. He'll be taking you through the rest of the program. Victor, what do you have for us?
Absolutely. As I earlier mentioned, we have the managing director of Ketraco, who is already in studio. We'll be talking about the issue to do with Ketraco and the involvement in the power construction lines in the country and what we stand to lose and gain as a country. That is coming up shortly after this. Stay with us. And welcome back. It's now time for us to get into discussion. As I earlier mentioned, we are going to talk about the issue to do with Ketraco and between Ketraco and Adani, but most importantly, how Kenyans are going to be gaining in as far as the power construction is concerned in the country. And in studio, I have got engineer John Mativo, who is the managing director of Ketraco, joining me in studio. MD, welcome to our studios.
Thank you, Victor.
It's early morning, and I believe you are up to the task.
Thank you.
This is how we do it every morning. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Let me start where we should. So we are here talking about the power line construction in the country. I really want to start by asking you, how good or bad are we in terms of power supply? You know, from the northern part of Kenya to the southern bit of east, west, and east. How is the power supply in our country?
Thank you, Victor. Regarding that, maybe let me give the current situation, but I have to go back in time to explain where we've come from. We currently have approximately 9,000 circuit kilometers of transmission lines. This was when Ketraco was incorporated in 2008. We only had 3,400. So Ketraco has done a lot to increase the grid where we are. But when you look at international standards, two things. When you look at the world has approximately 7 million transmission lines serving 8 billion people. Simple mathematics, Kenya should be close to 43,000 kilometers. Again, international standards, for every distribution line that you have, 16 kilometers of distribution lines should have 1 kilometer of transmission, so we should have close to 20,000.
Yes.
So in terms of the needs of the country, I would say we are less than half of where we are, and it's because of the historical, where we come from in history. I'll take a minute or two just to explain to us the history so that we can learn from it and agree to go forward where we are. Kenya did, I think, the first transmission lines in the 50s when they did a line from Jinja Then we waited a couple of years when, I think 1968, when we started doing the dams in Masinga, and all the way to early 80s during President Moi's time, we put up a number of lines now from the hydros, Nairobi. So we only had a simple line from the border in Malaba all the way to Rabai. Then we had a couple of lines going across the country. Then we have to jump a number of years later, is when we did Takwel. That was 91. Then we started doing the lines from Olkaria to the rest of the grid. So that's how we ended up having a population of almost 40-something million being served by 3,000 kilometers of transmission lines. So that has left us in great deficit of where we're supposed to be. The grid, yes, has improved, as I said, but it's not optimal. We have serious constraints in the system. We have transmission lines that are, I think 3 transmission lines are operating more than 100%. Yeah. I know there's a blackout that was caused last year in that the line was carrying 140% of its capacity. So we have a lot of constraints in the system that you touch one circuit breaker, you end up having national blackout. This is not sustainable. Therefore, that's the need why we need to put transmission lines. And
is that the current status of power distribution in Kenya?
Power transmission.
Yes,
that's the current status of power transmission lines, is that we as a country are almost working in eggshells. I was telling people actually 2 days ago, we had a blackout just before midnight, partial blackout, which I'm sure most people did not pick that. So we're in a situation where you have some overvoltage or something small happens, it trips the whole grid. There's actually serious need to improve our transmission infrastructure. Others will be in really, really bad shape come a couple of years from now. Power demand has kept on increasing day by day. People are utilizing more power. We have seen, even in the last 3 months, actually have had 3 peaks in the last 3 months. So you can actually see demand increasing, and definitely there's always a fear that this line are going to be go beyond capacity and cause issues.
It must be an expensive venture to get into. Perhaps you could just take me through how much it has costed you as a company, as Ketraco, perhaps to do annual construction of the power lines that we have right now?
Okay, so far for the last, I would say, 14 years that Ketraco has been existing, the government, because so far the model we've been using is that a national treasury has been borrowing money from World Bank, African Development Bank, and other development partners. So the projects we have put on board, close to 42 projects, have costed anything in Kenya shillings between $250 billion. So that's the kind of investment we have brought on board to be able to stretch lines across the whole country. This includes the interconnectors to our neighboring countries. This includes lines to, because when we came on board, we still have many towns in Kenya that were being supplied using medium voltage lines, so the 3 kV lines. We also had lines in, for example, in places like Garissa, Lamu, that were diesel generators. So we displaced that and used transmission lines. Then just reinforcing the whole grid and being able to evacuate power. So those are and now the interconnectors. That's the kind of investment that has gone so far by government borrowing and on granting to Ketraco. Yes.
In terms of what should have been done to improve it, what do you think should have been done by Ketraco itself and even the government?
Okay, currently we have a transmission master plan that plans the needs of the country, and also as a sector also have the least cost power plan that has projected the needs of the country for the next 20 years. What we currently need is to put up close to 9,000 kilometers of transmission lines at a cost of anything like $5.6 billion. So that's the kind of money we need to put the infrastructure to ensure that we have places, new places that are supported by the grid. We have the grid reinforced. We have levels of redundancy that are available in the country so that not one area should be able to cause a national blackout. Kenya should be able to get 24/7 power supply, almost 100%. And reliable power. That's what we should go to. Anything less than that, it will not sell to Kenyans and it will not sell to anybody who wants to put an industry here.
Engineer, you talked about constant power supply, but in the last 2 weeks we experienced some serious power blackout in the country. What caused that?
Okay, this year so far we have had 2 national blackouts.
Yes.
Actually from 2015 we've had like 14, but let me focus on this year and last year. Yeah, 14 from that. And these ones were caused by the lack of redundancy. The last one was actually, let me start with the first one this year, was caused by a circuit breaker that blew up in one of the substations. And that substation is where all the power that is coming from Olkaria all the power that is coming from I talk almost 600 megawatts plus. You talk about another 200 megawatts coming from Ethiopia. You talk almost 300 megawatts coming from Lake Turkana, coming to the substation. Unfortunately, one of the circuit breakers blew up. You know, circuit breakers, you have them next to your kitchen to protect your household. So that amount of energy that was lost caused the national blackout. So that's the one. The other thing, this latest one was caused by overvoltage in the system. Unfortunately, the voltages can get quite high in the system just because of both demand and the long lines that we have. So then the whole line, you know, the power protection system has also to protect itself. That caused the national blackout. And if you go back again, last year we had 3. The one in August again was caused by a fault of a line between Athi River and the STATCOM in Lake Turkana did not hold the grid as long as it's supposed to be. But you have this, the previous one, actually the last one in December was because of the line between Chemosit and Kisii. So it actually from Moroni to Chemosit. That line is one that supplies power to everybody from Kericho, Homa Bay, Nyamira, Kisii, Bomet, parts of Trans-Nzoia, Trans-Bara, sorry, then it goes all the way, so it depends on everybody else. That line only has a capacity of 80 megawatts. I can assure Victor, the demand in that area is in excess of actually 180 megawatts. So sometimes during peak hours, to ensure as many Kenyans get power, the line operates at almost 140 megawatts. That is way above its capacity. So just a lot of things have been done to ensure that the power is going out. So it's important that we build new lines, but also important that we have redundancy in the system. That's mandatory. So investment, and I told you we are talking about 5-point-something billion, multiplied by Kenyan shillings, we are talking about anything like 600-something. That's the kind of investment we require for the next 20 years. That is approximately what I keep on saying is $250 million per year. That's the kind of investment we need to put in place.
So that requires a lot of reconstructing and even now revamping the existing power lines. Are you doing something about that?
Yes. Currently, we are, between now and December, you'll see I'll be putting out tenders for 10 projects. 6 lots financed by ADB and the Koreans. That government has already secured the loan. We have World Bank bringing, so these are lines from Narok to Bomet. One of the things this line, we already signed the contract, will allow power of anybody in that part of the former, let me say the former Nyanza province and part of Rift Valley South will get supplied power from there. So they stop relying on the other line coming from Chemosit. Then we have lines to, from Malindi to Weru to Kilifi. If you're driven between Mtwapa and Kilifi, you'll see the number of industries that have grown in that place. So we want to have redundancy. It can get supplied directly from Rabai or Malindi side. Then we need to connect from Nyanyuki to Rumuti. But World Bank is also bringing what we call STATCOMs. STATCOMs, for layman, let me make it very simple. They're devices that you put in the grid that manage the voltage. So this, I've talked about voltage. This equipment, we put them at Suswa and Rabai. Even if the voltage is erratic, when it enters, it comes out, it tries to smoothen the grid, and we require more of that in the grid. Then we have big substations. So we have quite a number of projects already coming on board this year, plus a new national control center. The current one we used was actually built in 1988. Yes, it has been improved over time, but we get to a point where we require modern facility that can take care of more wind load, more solar load, and a lot of what the needs of Kenya. So we have quite a number of projects.
Engineer, I should take your word that you know, looking to the future, we not have the national power blackout that we experienced in the past. That actually, in the last 2 weeks, we faced 2.
Yes, and I can give one good example as we move. Now, I told you, Suswa, all the power comes to Suswa. So it's just imperative that we have a redundancy. We have to have a different system. So we plan to build a ring around Nairobi, just like a 400 kV ring. This is almost equivalent to, even London has a 400 kV ring. So you have a ring system that, if for whatever reason, either due to normal maintenance or due to something that happens that was not managed and planned, power can flow in different directions. So it gives more option that.
Why PIPs and PPPs in this kind of venture?
Now, as I said earlier, we require 250 million. Let's remember that.
Right.
If we don't invest in that kind of money, we go back to history where one day we'll come and pay the penalty for not having that infrastructure. So government is still borrowing some money to finance our projects. So that's why we have new projects coming on board. But government, all of us in Kenyans, we know that the government has get to a point where the fiscal space to borrow and the debt ceiling has almost hit maximum. So the government cannot borrow. That's one of the things. Secondly is these financials we're talking about, whether it's JICA, because they're financing Kundu Mariakani, it takes almost 8 years for financial to start a new project, to take all the way to completion and start a new project. So We are about to go to tender, so the earliest we bring new projects with the same financials as concessional loans is anything 4 years from now. So it has left a room where we have to agree as a country, do we invest? Do we bring the private sector on board? As long as they bring good resources, can they come on board and partner with government and put up infrastructure? It has worked in many countries, and that's what we are trying. These are our first pilot projects, and that's the journey we're walking through right now.
I'm trying to understand, because such kind of a venture, you must have some CV behind it. What are some of these projects that Ketraco has done that you can pride yourself in and say that this is what I can float to Kenyans, and now given an opportunity, you'll be able to carry on with the next project, given time and space?
As I said earlier, Ketraco has finished almost 42 projects, various voltages. So we have transmission lines. I think our biggest is one to Ethiopia.
But in this regard, with the PIPs and PPPs?
But the PPP, that's the first time basically been done.
Yes.
So that's why I said the pilot projects, that's the first project we're getting. So what Ketraco has spent the last 6 years or so years is definitely preparing for this. We've done a lot of capacity building. Ketraco has the most number of people who are certified as PPP professionals. This is international certification I'm talking about. Ketraco has spent a lot of, the Financials Power Africa, African Development Bank, has spent time in terms of doing capacity building. Then you see the government also in 2021 enacted the PPP Act. So, which is very clear in terms of the steps to be taken to undertake a private, a PPP or a PIP. That's very clear.
Okay.
Yes.
So, it's now all over in the lips of many people. The Adani Group. How did they know that there is need for power construction and power supply in this country?
Okay. This journey to move to PPP started a long time. Let me actually say, if you can go back to all the way to September 2016, that's the first time Ketraco put an advert out to look for PPP. We just started with consultants who have been there. And again, somewhere in July 2020, we also put an advert to get a transaction advisor to help us formulate a project. So it has always been the market in whether it's the PPP unit that time, their website and our website about this thing. So there's always been the need for that. So many players, not just Adani. The first players to come on board, by the way, were Africa 50 in 2018. They're the ones who put the first expression of interest and said the market, they're interested in coming to a market. Africa 50 is basically a multinational body that supports private sector finance in Africa, equivalent of IFC in the world, but for ADB. So Kenya is a shareholder to Africa 50. So they actually brought the first expression of interest. Then later you had Adani coming on board. That was last year, early last year. Then we have EDF from France also putting expression of interest. So we have a number of people who have come on board. Adani is not the first. Adani is just one of the players that came on board and said we need to, this is an investment they're able to do. Yes.
They have a reputation, and in question, why was it Adani picked in the first place? Now that you've said that there are other people who also, gave out the proposal, why Adani?
Oh, thank you, Victor. Africa 50 has given a proposal for 2 transmission lines. One of them is to do a line from Kibos, Kakamega to Musaga. Anybody from Western Kenya will agree about the quality of power in Western Kenya is not the best. It's not something to talk about. And the other thing is that we have a lot of distribution losses in Western Kenya. So part of the bill is because of the losses that we want to reduce the losses by doing investment. They're also doing a line from somewhere called Losuk to Lesos to allow power coming from the north, like Turkana, to flow in that direction. So they already have their projects that are ongoing. Adani have given 3 transmission lines and substations to be able to undertake. So they have different projects that have given their proposals, and EDF also has separate projects that put on board. So they're not the same projects.
Okay.
Yes.
So what is the process from the initial stages of having this proposal put on the table until where you are right now as Ketraco?
Yes, the first step is by the law. Definitely, they put an expression of interest. They're able to indicate that they're undertaking this project, which now, after that, they prepare their proposal, which the law calls it a privately initiated proposal. So they do the proposal. The law is quite clear in terms of what you're supposed to check. So they give the project. A team is appointed by a evaluation team, both Ketraco and the PPP Directorate. They analyze the project and confirm that it meets all the requirements of the law. Things like it has to be already a sector plan. Somebody cannot come and say, I want to build a line from Lamu to maybe Lake Turkana. It's not in a sector plan. So it has to be in sector plan. They check a number of things, and the first level of diligence where they bring the documentation is done. Here I'm talking about Adani Energy Solution. So there are many things that are given as per the Act, and they're evaluated. Once the committee is certified, satisfied, we go to the PP the committee through the directorate, and they give approval. You can move to the next stage, which is now the project development report phase. Now, this is a phase you do a lot of studies. Now, you prepare things, feasibility studies, both legal studies, you prepare environmental studies, resettlement studies. There are quite a number of things you're supposed to prepare, and that's the time now they give their proposal in terms of what they want to do this project for. Again, it goes through the whole evaluation. Once the team is satisfied, we go to the committee, and for this case, the committee even returned us back to get more information. Then we come back and they give an approval. Once they give an approval, sometimes it's conditional, sometimes it's not conditional, but they tell you, you move to now negotiations. Now that's the time now you start negotiating the terms.
Yes.
First you discuss in terms of all the issues of cost of the project. You discuss issues in terms of both environmental issues, technical specifications. You discuss legal issues, and there are quite a number of issues that are guided by the act that you discuss. Then after that, you start preparing the project agreement.
Yes.
Now this will be like almost, for lack of a better word, the Bible that will be used to ensure how the transaction will be done.
Okay.
So this process, with, like for example, Adani, we started on 10th of July. We have a draft. We are still continuing to go on 1st of October to continue. So the law gives us 6 months to finalize the whole process. So this is the act, the document that will actually be the foundation on terms of how this transaction will be done. So they've given us their offer, the price of the project. They've given us the offer in terms of now the cost of money, and we have our numbers on the side, which we're still negotiating, the first thing I have to say, Victor, is that we managed to reduce the cost of the project by $280 million. We plan to push it down to by 320 million. So we plan to reduce the cost by 43 billion shillings from where they were at the beginning.
Yeah.
So right now, they're still at 736. We still believe it should be below 600, below 700. And the good thing is that we have the advantages, Ketraco. We've done many transmission lines, different voltages.
Yes.
So when somebody tells me the price to do this transmission line is X, I tell him no. I can remove many examples, both inside Kenya and outside. When I remember at the time for one of the projects, the one that given me Menengai, Olkalau, Rumuruti line. So they told me this is the price. I told them that same day in the morning I'd opened the price for Narok Bomet.
Yeah.
So I showed them this is the price. I've done way leaves, so taxes are just 30%. So that's what we're trying to negotiate to try to reduce that. We are confident we're trying to reduce that.
All right. So that proposal evaluation process is the PPP under Act of CAP 430. So where are we? What stage are we right now?
We're at negotiation stage.
Negotiation stage.
Yes.
Okay. So apart from Ketraco and Africa 50, which are some of the companies that were also involved and also flouted their interest?
I said, so you have Adani, you have Africa 50, those who came first. Then you have Adani, then you have EDF. EDF is from France, is one of the companies from France. So then they're still at proposal level. There's still a number of steps behind. Yes.
You know, the project is also the proposal to have Adani is proposal. How will Adani recoup its money at the end of it all? You know, it's proposed that it's going to take like around 30 years or so.
Okay, let me go. Thank you for that, Victor. So they have the project. So once we lock the project cost, maybe in a few days or months, the other thing is the cost of money. So they put a proposal that this is the cost of the project. Let's assume it's 700, but they're still at 700 something, but we're confident. The second thing they say is that we are going to how we're going to finance this project. We are going to put 30% of the project, but we're pushing them 25% through equity, and we have the rest through debt. So through equity, they are currently at 16% return on equity, and the other part is going to be cost of debt, which they are still at 11 point something. We're trying to push them down. So after this has been finalized, we need to confirm the act is very clear. The project always, the numbers have to ensure affordability. So we have to test the project for affordability. Affordability on two ways. One, to consumers, that's number one. Secondly, also affordability to the country, because the way the project is done, it can bring a contingent liability to the government.
Yes.
Because, for example, if the government was to make a law to nationalize the expressway, the government still has to pay for the infrastructure. Because remember, the asset is always our asset. So then there's the issue of value for money and issue of risk transfer. So all that has been completed, then we come we apply to EPRA for a tariff on the annual revenue requirement for the project. So we, at a certain point, we'll have to go to EPRA and ask them, based on what is required by the project, plus also the benefits, whether it's reduction of losses and other benefits bringing, for them to give us a tariff based on that.
Yes. The engineer, there is that's the aspect of loss and damages. Will Kenyans get value for all of this process? Because the way it's out there in the public domain, it's very expensive, and Kenyans are going to get deep down to their pockets too. You know, the taxpayer is going to be overburdened. Is that the scenario we have right now?
No. Let me explain something here. There's no transmission line for free, so it is paid. Currently, all the projects I talked about that Ketraco has done up to date, because most of them loans were signed before 2016, the government is already paying for the loans. So if you go to the loan portfolio, government is paying for loans. And how does government pay for loans? Is by taxes, BNU. So one method is to pay the financing through the taxes. The other one is to bring private sector players to finance and pay the tariff through electricity tariff. So there's no free lunch. Somebody has to pay for it.
There's no free lunch.
Yes. Yeah. And that's why it's important for us to ensure that first the project agreement we put in place does not have any clause, anything that is can a negative to the country. That's one of the things. Secondly, the price we get, because it's going to be paid. Yes. The price we get has to be affordable. There's no question about it. The price has to be affordable, because there's no way. I mean, and the benefits.
When you talk about affordable, what do you mean? Affordability now? The price has to be affordable.
Yes. I mean, it has to be able to. Kenyans have to be able to pay.
Okay.
Based on, in terms of, you look at both. If a line, because I told you the losses are X. Let's look at the losses in Kakamega. Maybe the losses of power in that area are a certain amount of percentage. This line is coming on board, is reducing the distribution losses by a certain amount of money, and the quantity of power there's overflowing, because maybe a 33 kV line can only push 30 megawatts. Now you bring a line that can take maybe anything like 200 megawatts. So you see, there's the additional benefit that comes to people in that area to consume power and to grow. And you see, the moment the demand increases, economics of scale, also the cost of everything goes down when you have that.
Yeah.
So that's what the test that we're going to do at a certain time before we go to EPRA and confirm the numbers, because fortunately we live in a regulated sector. So Ketraco does not have the mandate just to say the price is 1 shilling more or something like that. That's going to be EPRA. But what we have to make sure that we give a product that means value for money and affordability criteria.
What percentage goes to the government, and what percentage goes to Ketraco and Adani in this deal, if it goes through?
No, this is purely, Ketraco does not make money from the deal.
Good, that's a clarification.
That's not whatever.
Okay.
Government makes 30% from the EPC cost during construction. They have to pay taxes unless it's exempted. So that's what the government pays. So the other thing is now they get money, the annual revenue requirement, to be able to pay their loans that they've put in the investment and recoup the equity through return on equity. Yes.
Okay. And Adani gets?
That's what Adani gets. What I'm saying, Adani has invested money.
Okay.
So cost of debt is borrowed, so that one goes to the financials.
Great.
So there's return on the 30 or 25%. That's why they have the return on equity. That's now what they're saying. They want 16% on return on equity. That's what they make here.
What's your proposal? What's in terms of voltage, in terms of power lines and kilometers that you really want to construct? What's your proposal?
For Adani, or just for Ketraco generally?
Yes, for Ketraco generally and Adani.
Okay, let me start. The bigger picture, as I said, which our transmission master plan targets 9,200 kilometers of transmission line. That's what we project in the next 20 years. Quite a number of substations to come on board. So that's the kind of plan we have. From those 9,000 kilometers, Adani is doing, I think, 300 and something. Then if the other company is doing maybe 200 plus something. So you get almost like 600, if I add the others, 600 to 700 kilometers will be done through PPP. Yes.
And what is the projection? If the deal goes through, at what level? 1, 2 years? What are you looking at?
Oh, the law gives them 365 days. Let's assume, the current state, we have 6 months maximum. So by 6 months, by December, I have to have finished the negotiations. Hopefully we can finish earlier. I hope they can take our money. If I tell them cost of debt take less than go for the single digit and return the equity, then I shake hands. Then so whatever times you get finished, then they have 365 days to get to financial closure. So you have financial closure. Then they plan to use 2 years to do the construction. So they plan to acquire way leaves or whatever permits within this time. So by the time they go to financial closure and build the project in 2 years. So if you add 2 years plus maybe 6 months for financial closure, this takes us to maybe 2.5 years, less than 3 years. So maybe just early 2027, some of the projects will be finished by that time, so that Kenyans will start making benefits from that. I told her I need the ring system in Nairobi like yesterday, because I can't assure Kenyans that tomorrow you'll have a blackout. Unfortunately, the constraints are so big in like the lines around Nairobi North, the lines in Western Kenya. We're not doing well. Sometimes I look at my phone, if it rings at night, I know somebody's telling me things.
There's a power blackout. But engineer, you've told me the process and everything else. So where are we right now? That for this deal to be signed, what's the remaining process?
Okay, so once we finish negotiations, we finish the project agreement, we need to definitely clear with the PPP committee all the conditions that were riding on the approval. We need the AG's approval. AG has to give a clean slate. Then we have good notification to cabinet.
Yes.
The law talks about notification, but I'm sure the interest that it has, it'll be more than a notification. So there are different levels of approvals that we have to get. Then definitely I'm spending, first I really appreciate the opportunity, part of this month and next month in terms of doing sensitization. I've been asked by quite a number of people to come and do sensitization. And Victor, sorry for this. I got a question by industry, insurance companies, Kenyans, pension schemes, and other players who are interested in asking me, how do they invest? Because right now most people invest in real estate. How do Kenyans invest in transmission infrastructure? So I think I have a session on 28th. I'll be trying to explain
Maybe
that.
You can give us a hint.
Yes. To us, again, it's an issue of cost of money, but there are many small projects because most banks, most financials don't take long-term financing. So, but I require a lot of reinforcement. For example, I have the Malindi transformer is full. Sometimes I feel sad for people in that area that we have to remove power from some of them. So that's such projects that are like reinforcement, transmission line, substation, the rest that don't require heavy investment, I believe can easily be financed by Kenyans. The good thing is that I'll have to pay back in Kenya shillings, not in dollars. So to me, I'm really excited to hear Kenyans are really interested in investing in this area, because I still believe pension schemes can get a better deal from energy than even real estate. But that's the discussion we'll have with them.
Okay, so let's go back to the process you're talking about so that you can sign the deal, the process remaining, so that we hit the ground running.
Yes, so right now, what I'm going to spend time is negotiating the project agreement, because it's key. There are a number of clauses. Those are the terms that need to be handled with care, because they will be there for 30 years. That means my grandson will be inheriting some of these things. So that's what we need to get on board. We have a very good legal team that is supporting us to ensure that is done. So that's number one. The other thing is to get the numbers. The company is doing price discovery right now, so that they're getting the EPC cost. That's why I was confident we are going to reduce the prices. Issues of getting about the cost of way leaves and taxes, because those are 80% of the cost. We want to really firm them up so that we're clear about the numbers, push them as much as possible to get a better cost of debt. I'm really excited that the Federal Bank of US is meeting today and tomorrow. We're hoping the interest rates are going to come down so that we get something better come into the system. Then we try to reduce the rate equity. Unfortunately, when Kenya Modi downgraded Kenya, again the cost of finance in Kenya increased. Those are things that we're hoping to sort it out before the financial closure, so that we can get this positive thing. But I can assure you, every project we have taken is adding value. I know I've talked about the big project. I have a substation in Thuodboro at Sondu. People in that area, anybody who comes from that area knows power comes from a long distance. Power is poor quality. I really feel very bad when I see the comments on people. And that's one of the substation we're putting on board with Adani Energy Solution, hopefully within before the financial closure, so that people in that area can get a step down 33, and that can supply power in that area, even as you continue the line. So every project we are putting, there's no project that is out of our process, and all of them are extremely urgent, that the grid requires them like tomorrow.
I've just received a message here. Somebody's asking, what about the Turkana wind power project? Is it able to and enough to power us?
Yes. Again, first, yes, the wind regime is extremely good in Turkana. They're able to supply sometimes 300 megawatts of power. But during the rainy season, unfortunately, Kenya, when it rains, the wind goes down. They're able to go down almost to zero. So it fluctuates up and down. But it's quite, right now, before the rainy season, it's quite good. I think even at a time on Sundays, if I'm not wrong, there's a day it actually supplied 17% of the power that was being consumed in the country. So it's performing well. Kenyan are interested in Marsabit wind. We're doing a line from Longalani to Marsabit to Isiolo. So we hope that will be that, but that is not PPP. That's DFI financing. And KenGen also want to put a power plant there, and that's why we're putting this redundancy to ensure that power can flow in different directions. We'll put the line in Losuk to allow, Losuk is just off Marala on the same line, to allow power to flow to Western Kenya from again the wind plant. There's very good wind in regime in Turkana.
Okay.
Yes.
And finally, the engineer, you know, the whole of this deal has been shrouded with a lot of rumors and all that. What's something good you can tell us that perhaps Kenyans do not know, so that even me, sitting on this set, I can go home and say, I think there is some hope for this country?
Okay, let me first talk about these companies briefly. I'm not a salesman for this project.
You can try.
But what I just give the assurance is I know Adani, there's been a lot, but let me talk about Adani Energy Solution, because at least the numbers I have, and Waziri talked about this. They have close to 22,000 kilometers of transmission lines currently, circuit kilometers. So that is more than what Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, Somali, and parts of DRC. They have a bigger network, both in terms of lines and substations, more than we have.
I see.
Power Grid that is working with Africa 50 has, I think, very close, maybe half what is sub-Saharan Africa. Everybody from West Africa to whatever, it has more than that. So we're bringing players that have a lot of experience in terms of investment. For me, the most important thing, and I assure you, Victor, what I have to do as an MD and my team, we have to ensure first the project agreement is done perfectly, because it's something that will live for long. That's one of the things. And secondly, I have to get your best deal in terms of financing, because I need this line to supply you. I need this level of redundancy to supply you. So you just know that, Victor, we are going to fight for it. We'll continue, unfortunately, and one of the feedback we've been receiving is that we needed more public sensitization, more sharing of information, what is happening, and we'll try our best to be able to be sharing more information. Definitely everything will be made transparent. There's no way I can assure EPRA is going to approve a tariff that is coming in Kenya, I can assure you.
Engineer, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Victor.
That is the best place. I think I'll be going home and sleep tonight. A happy Kenyan. That is Engineer John Mativo, Managing Director, Ketraco. He's just giving us A to Z on what you should be expecting in this Adani and Ketraco deal in as far as power construction and distribution in the country is concerned. All right. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we still have more on Good Morning Kenya. Stay with us. Up next is Weather Forecast.
Mtazamaji, tumekuandalia taarifa zinazogonga vichwa vya vyombo vya habari kutoka hapa jijini Nairobi na pia mashinani.
Wanahabari zaidi ya ubora wao wako ange kukuletea habari pindi zinapochipuka kutoka pembe zote za Kenya.
Kwenye kipindi cha Tamrini tunakuletea mazungumzo ya moja kwa moja kufafanua na kuangazia masuala yanayokuhusu wewe mtazamaji.
Kumbuka, taarifa yenye thamani daima hupokewa kwa amani.
Hivyo basi usikose kuungana nasi kila siku ya wiki.
Tukupakulie na tukutaarifu taarifa yenye mnato kwenye runinga unayoienzi. Kwenye kurunzi mashinani,
sisi DC.
That's an hour of time we don't have, Farah. I say we listen to what Kenyanjui has to say, right?
How about we focus on the task at hand?
Will you come off my my back, Katito. I am a woman, I can multitask.
Now that you guys have all of a sudden decided to be Mother Teresas, let me take my leave.
What kind of nonsense is this? Eh? Why can't you just speak normally?
Masefara, shut up. You're not the director.
Will you pay attention? Eh? You are just about to arrest him.
I shall do no such a thing. Goodbye.
On KBC Channel 1, we are a TV station like no other. Get a taste of the best in entertainment.
Yes, indeed.
Feel the passion.
Will you promise me?
I swear that you will never lose me. I can't get married to you.
I'm sure you knew about it. That's why you were making fun of me.
Experience the drama.
Get out. Who is the man in this one?
And the laughter.
Hii wigi umevaa kichwani. Sisi wakati tulikuwa tunaapishwa tunapewa mheshimiwa.
Move to the beat.
We are live from Broadcasting House.
And get informed on the latest happenings. KBC Channel 1.
Wow.
Yeah!
We are the full package.
Oh, yes.
And Kenya's watching.
Thank you very much for joining us.
All right, welcome back. It's now for us to shift a bit and talk about matters education, research, innovation, and technology in the country. Just after that, there is nowhere where it is power and research, technology, and innovation are not, or rather, is not there. So today, I'm also joined in studio by Professor Emmanuel Mutisia, who is the chairman of Kenya Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. You can shorten this as Kenya AIST, Kenya AIST, joining me in studio. Prof, welcome to the program. First of all, let's start from where we should. Kenya Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. Tell me more about this.
No, thank you very much, Victor. I think, well, I'm grateful first for getting this opportunity to come here and talk to Kenyans about research, innovation, and development. And now the Kenya Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, as you put it, Kenya AIST or even KAIST, is a specialized institution, which was sort of conceptualized to address Kenya's development challenges. I think the focus is more on science, technology, and innovation, so that we can grow innovations that will drive Kenya's industrialization or grow the Kenya's industrial base, but also to modernize Kenya and put Kenya at the level of other advanced economies in the world, so that we can sort of compete at that level, the level of countries like Japan, countries like South Korea, countries like China, Europe, and America, and so on and so forth. And now we are starting as a specialized institution or university, meaning that one, we are not sort of anchored at the Ministry of Education. We are administratively under the Ministry of ICT. Now, this idea of the Kenya Advanced Institute of Science and Technology was conceptualized or mooted in 2012, under the Vision 2030, as one of the flagship programs. In 2015, a feasibility study was done to check how visible it is to set up such an institution. In 2019, we got some funding support from the Korean government. That's government-to-government funding, in which the Kenyan government sort of agreed with the Korean government that Kenya was ready to set up a science and technology and innovation only institution in Kenya. And then in 2019, started developing the curriculum. 2020, the contractor was set on the ground in Konza City. And then we are there. We're almost getting finished with the construction process and the equipping. I think by the second week of November, the university will be ready. I think the president is going now to commission it, launch it, and get started with the training process.
Why Konza? Why Konza City or why Konza Metropolis?
Now, Konza, as we all know, Konza is a technopolis. it's the Silicon Savannah of Africa. It is where everything innovation is supposed to be anchored. So we were set there as the anchor institution in terms of research, innovation, in the area of science and technology, so that we can feed into the growth of Konza as a technopolis, in the sense that Kenya East is supposed to work with all enterprises that are going to grow out of Konza, so that we can drive innovations, we can commercialize those innovations, and we can grow industries that will not only feed into the Konza economy, but the national economy and also the continental economy. Yes.
Allow me to ask you this question. How unique is this? It sounds to be one of its kind in the country. How unique is it going to be once it's up and running?
No, there are several ways of looking at it. Number one, as I said, it's a postgraduate only university. Meaning that we're only going to focus on research, masters and PhDs. And the areas of study are science-oriented. So we're only focusing on engineering, biotechnology, and any other science-oriented program. We're starting with 7 programs. We're starting with the normal engineering programs, mechanical, civil, electronic, and electrical engineering. And then we have new ones, chemical, nuclear. We have ICT engineering, and we also have biotechnology. Now, this is where we are going to start, but we are going to grow the programs based on emerging issues, because we want to address challenges that are not the old challenges, but new challenges that are emerging as we move into the future. Because when you look at countries that are now leading, in terms of development, you realize that they are utilizing technology, innovation, so on and so forth, to grow their industries. When you talk about artificial intelligence, for example, countries that are going to control that space are going to control the global economy, and that's why we have the US. That's why we have China. That's why we have other upcoming economies like Korea and so on and so forth. We want Kenya to take this lead, not just in East Africa or Africa, but also to play at the league of other advanced economies in the world. Now, if we want to look at the uniqueness part of it, we want to look at it at different levels. One, we want to recruit outstanding faculty members. The professors that we're going to get are not just going to be, to be recruited from Kenya. We're going to recruit them across board, from Africa and from outside Africa. Ideally, we actually want to get Kenyans who are in leading universities like Harvard, Stanford, University of Tokyo, University of Tsinghua in China, who are in the areas of study that we are undertaking at the Kenya East, to come and train our scientists, at that level where they train the Americans in Harvard and so on and so forth, so that we can also create a pathway of Kenyans returning from abroad to come and share their knowledge, share their innovations, transfer technology to grow our innovation base in this country.
What is the contribution from the ministry?
The Ministry of ICT, as the Anga Ministry, one, of course, they provide the budgeted support, and of course the linkage with the other government entities, including, of course, working with the Ministry of Education, because we are a university. So we are governed under the Universities Act of 2012. So we have not run away from the Ministry of Education. We are just anchored at the Ministry of ICT, but working together with the Ministry of Education to ensure that the quality of education that we drive at the institute is within the standards that have been set by the Ministry of Education and the Commission of University Education in this country. Number two, the Ministry of ICT is also giving us linkages. Ideally, then if I can put it like this, we've been working very closely with the CS and the PS, particularly the PS, Engineer Tanui, who was formerly the CEO of Konza, and who was there when the conceptualization of the Kenya East was done. So with the networks that we have with all ICT giants, not just in Kenya, but across the world, it's something that it's feeding into the development process of the Kenya Advanced Institute of Science and Technology.
I mean, this sounds so encouraging, so to speak, but I'm looking at the long-term effect. Once it's up and running, you have got the first lot of graduates, and the third, and what are we looking at? What's the future of this unique university offering masters and PhD students, and what is it going to contribute into the national ecosystem?
No, before we even get to that, I think I would add two unique characteristics of the university.
Go ahead.
One of them is, because we have a small cream of students who are going to be enrolled, we would like to get the outstanding students from this country, and of course Kenyans who are outside the country, to come and study at the Kenya East. Now, at the starting, or as we start, we want to provide full scholarships to the students. So we are providing full scholarship. Okay. And the cost per student is going to be around $1 million shillings, around 1.2 million shillings for the 2 years. Because of the research sort of orientation that we have as a university. Now, we are talking to the private sector, not just in Kenya but outside, to finance a few of these students. We're talking to the government of Kenya to allocate some component of the budget to scholarships. We're also talking to donors, who have been partners to Kenya in the education space, to also support us in ensuring that we provide scholarship to these students. Now, the professors that I talked about, we also want to give them an outstanding, sort of a very competitive package. We don't want to give them the same rates that they get, that other professors get in Kenya. That's attractive. Now, for that to happen, of course, because packages, salary packages are governed by the SRC in Kenya. We are now trying to work with the other entities, other partners, to see whether we can have a top-up plan. So that if I want to get a professor from Harvard, he comes in feeling that he is properly remunerated in the standards that he would expect to sort of be remunerated. Then finally is a partnership with the private sector. We talk about this theoretically, but in our case, we are even providing space. If, for example, Safaricom wants to come and work with the Kenya East, we're going to give them a space in our buildings to work with us and work with the students. If a student creates an innovation, we are going to link them with a private sector player in that space. If it's a semiconductor sort of innovation, we link them with a semiconductor player. Like, well, in Kenya we have the Savannah semiconductor company, but out there we have companies like Samsung who are also working with us, who are leading players in the area of semiconductor sort of innovations globally. So these are some of the things that we want to bring into perspective as we get prepared to get started with the training process and research process in our university. Now, over to your question. You see, when the university was conceptualized, it was conceptualized or designed to address Kenya's socio-economic transformation issues. The challenge that we face in sort of improving our economic status, but also, in expanding our industrial base. One of the challenges that we face again is, and when we saw the Gen Zs, they complained about jobs. And jobs come from industries. Because our industrial base is weak, then we have not been able to create jobs for the young men and women in this country. So what we expect as from Kenya East, is to work with our students or our researchers, work with the private sector, grow our innovations into enterprises, and create decent job opportunities for the youth. Now, this would directly feed into the economy, and because we are working with emerging technological advancements, and we are driving, working towards driving, the growth of the science, technology, innovation ecosystem in this country. We expect now to see Kenya modernizing and growing to the levels of advanced economies in this world.
Okay, look, when you talk about science, technology, innovation, research, and all that, and I'm glad you've talked about you're linking the graduate and to the relevant job opportunities, which is very important. So in layman, hakuna kutamak. Hakuna kutamak from school to job. Hakuna kutamak. But then now, when you talk about full scholarship, can I just pick it from A to Z, full scholarship?
Correct. And I think that's one of the most important aspects that we have at the moment. And when we talk to the government, and we did agree on this, we sort of, if you are to get the best students in engineering, if you are to get the best in ICT or in biotechnology, then you have to give them an incentive. That incentive is full scholarship. Otherwise, the same student, if given a scholarship in Japan or in China or in the UK, they will definitely take those scholarships and go study out there. Now, we want to do this so that we can also attract the best. And therefore, our undertaking, and this is also the undertaking of the government of Kenya, is that we are going out there to source out for funds to ensure that we provide this full scholarship to all these students. And let me also say this. In our university, and I think this is, again, one of its kind, because we have built it from the ground to the end. Okay. We have set up everything, all the way from the administrative block to the classrooms, to the equipment, state-of-the-art equipment. All the equipment is coming from outside. The labs are set. We have also set up our accommodation facilities. So the students will have accommodation on site. Professors also have their space. If you come in and you want to do research with us, or you want to train our students, we'll give you accommodation down in Konza. Now, all this will be completed in the next 5 weeks or so. Now, that tells you that we are serious in creating a conducive environment for research in the areas of study that Kenya is going to take lead in this country. We are not doing it alone. Of course, we are working with the other university ecosystem in this country. We are working with all the other universities to ensure that we start packaging Kenya as an attractive destination for students, not just from Kenya, but from outside the country.
Yeah.
We are calling it the Africa Premier Institution, actually, of Science, Technology, and Innovation and Research. In that, we want to start, to work with the African Union, work with the African Development Bank, and allocate a number of students, 15% from the African continent, because we also want to promote integration of the continent by ensuring that there is this student mobility from various countries in the continent. Now, these students from outside Kenya, the 15% from Africa, we are talking to the African Development Bank. We are working with other continental bodies who can provide support, financial support to them. We're also allocating 10% to students from outside Africa now.
Okay.
So we have 75% from Kenya, 15% from the continent, and 10% from outside the continent. Now, this makes the university sort of a center where, one, we promote internationalization of higher education in Kenya, but also we create an opportunity for students from different cultures to learn from one another, and of course, drive the kind of development that we want to see, not just in Kenya, but globally.
Prof, somebody is asking me, it looks like a very good idea, but why don't you open it for everyone, postgrad and undergrad?
No,
why postgrad only? I mean,
you see, I think at some point
it sounds so good to be for the postgrad only.
I think there are two reasons for that. One, we are getting started. As we grow, we are going to expand to various other programs. If the team that we have looks at what we have and realizes that it's important to start undergrad, then we are going to do that. But for now, as per the design report, and those the team that conceptualized the university, they agreed that it was important that we start at that level so that we can set the standards.
Yes.
If you bring in 10,000 students now, we'll not be able to create the kind of research and training ecosystem that we want to create at this level, because then we just become any other university in this country. So the one who is asking, and the rest of the Kenyans, please allow us to get started. Come there, do your research, do your master's, do your PhD. We'll give you the best that we can.
Yeah.
And of course, as we move forward, based on the suggestions that we get from Kenyans and other stakeholders, we're going to see what kind of programs we're going to sort of include in the party that we have.
That is answered. Again, is it public or private university?
It's a public university.
Public university.
Yeah.
So, tell me, at what point or when are we looking at the first day that you're going to open that to cut that tape, and so that we have the first student walking in?
Good. A number of things have happened. Actually, if it was not for COVID-19, we would have completed the facilities by 2022. But because of COVID, there has been this lag in terms of the construction process. Now we expect to get the facilities handed over to the government of Kenya by December of this year. So the completion is going to be around the first week of November. Now I think we are doing the equipping of the labs, equipping of the accommodation space, and by November we'll have everything set. We get handover of the facilities, and we plan to start the process of recruiting the top-notch professors that we're talking about, and also the students by the first quarter of 2025. Now this means two things. One, because we don't have the professors yet. We are actually in the process of recruiting them. We cannot recruit a research student without a professor, because it's a professor who sort of pinpoints the kind of student that he wants to be part of his training team. So once you do that, we now get immediately to the process of now recruiting the students, and then we get started immediately after that, because then we don't have to have facilities, have equipment, and then we have we do not have the training process taking place immediately.
Allow me to ask you, the Kenya Kwanza administration is quite keen on ICT and the superhighway in technology, innovation, and all that. How is it going to contribute into the government's agenda idea of stretching the ICT superhighway once this is up and running?
No, I mean, that to me is a very important question. In fact, our alignment, as I said, we aligned within the bigger framework of Vision 2030. Certainly, we are also aligned with the bottom-up economic transformation agenda of this country, which again, has identified ICT and the digital economy as one of the key pillars.
Yes.
There are a number of things that we're going to do there. One, we are building capacities for the people who are going to develop that superhighway that you are talking about.
Yes.
We are building capacities for the people who are going to develop the kind of innovations that are in the strategic plan that was approved by the Minister of ICT, early this year. So that bit of innovation will come from the Kenya East. We are also doing research to drive or to inform the development of the ICT sector in this country. We don't just want to do ICT development blindly. We just don't want to start talking about innovations within the ICT frame blindly. We want to inform the ministry on the kind of focus areas that are ideal to drive the kind of development that we want to see in this country. So, and I think fortunately, as I said, we are under the Ministry of ICT. So our agenda, our strategic plan is aligned with the bigger plan within the Ministry of ICT, and we work very closely. As I said, Engineer John Tanu, the PS, has been a key player in the progress and the process that we have seen over the last 2-3 years in the establishment of the Kenya East. Now, finally, our contribution to the space of the Gen Zs. We saw the Gen Zs putting a lot of complaints on the table. And that is why we are saying that the young men and women who are going to train in this university, one, will get full scholarship. Those are the Gen Zs. We are going to provide space for them to innovate, to incubate the ideas and grow these ideas into industries. Now, they will create jobs for themselves. They will also create jobs for others. We are again feeding into the bottom-up economic transformation agenda of creating jobs for the youth, skilling the youth again, and of course doing research around the areas of focus within the bigger agenda, not just the ICT part of it, but also the other 4 pillars within the framework of the better.
Prof, you're trying to appreciate the innovation, the creative mind of Gen Z and Kenyans in general. Allow me to ask you, so at the end of the day, we have this aspect of brain drain. Correct. Kenyans getting trained, and then, we do brain drain and brain exportation to other countries. Is it going to slow down that? Are we going to see?
I think I will turn that into brain circulation. If you take it as brain drain, I will get worried, because I trained in Sweden. And I did my PhD in Japan.
Yes.
And I started my professional career actually in Japan. Now, I am back in Kenya, to contribute to Kenya's development. So, whatever I learned in Japan is actually exactly what I'm giving back to the country. So, I think we should focus more on how to circulate our brains, globally, because the globe is now a small village. So that we can also learn from other countries. India today is a leading medical space globally. Why? Because Indians are everywhere. They go out there, they come back to India to develop their economy. Korea East, and I think it's more than that to note this, that we are actually modeled after the Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. Now, Korea East has been sort of the home of diaspora of Korea from outside the world. Now, they create opportunities for the diaspora that has gone to other parts, so that they can also come back and give back to the site. Because if we do not learn from Korea, or we do not learn from China, or Japan, or UK, then we might as well not be able to compete with the best in this world. So I would urge our people to focus more on what we get when we send our Kenyans outside the country. Because at the end of the day, and this is a special characteristic of Kenyans, they always go out, but they always come back. When they come back, they contribute to the foundation of growth.
You went to China, you did your PhD, worked there, and came back home. Now you want to invest back home. Home is home. So as we finalize, so the first cohort of students to start streaming in, when are we looking at this?
Yeah, we are looking at the first quarter of next year.
Okay.
We want to sort of open up by January of this coming year. And of course, we are working with partners, because at some level, we will work with the leading private sector players in this country.
Okay.
We'll just tell them, please get us one of your staff whom we want to sort of support to come and train with us. After 2 years, they'll come back and support you. Or the sponsors and a student out there who once they are done with their studies will now be able to come back and contribute to the development of your company. Why we are saying this is because ours is to drive a knowledge economy, an innovation-led economy in this country. And to do that, we must ensure that our industries are knowledge-based and innovation-based, and that is what we bring. So if we work with our plan, then by April of next year, we should now be in serious business of training the best in this country.
Give me a quick rundown. Some of the in terms of academics now, the initial departments that you'll start with.
Yeah, we have 7 programs. I call them 7 flagship programs.
Yes.
We have mechanical engineering, then we have civil engineering, we have electrical and electronics engineering, we have ICT engineering, we have chemical engineering, and then we have biotechnology. And specifically, we're going to start with agricultural biotechnology for the food part of it. Why we are focused on these areas is because when you look at them, you realize that there is a component that is critical in driving our economy to the next level. For example, ICT. ICT, we're talking about artificial intelligence, which is the thing of today. If we are left behind in terms of AI, then we might as well just forget being among the best, globally. Yes. We're also talking about robotics. We are talking about semiconductors. The chips that we see in our phones, we want to start producing them in this country. We want to set up actually a sort of a semiconductors factory or industry in Konza. We're talking about biotechnology. We're working with IVI, International Vaccine Institute, to sort of develop vaccines and do research around vaccines. We are now working with them to also look at establishing a vaccine industry in Konza. Why we are doing this is because when you saw the COVID-19, you realize that Africa had one challenge, that we only produce 1% of the total vaccines in the world. And for us to now address future pandemics, we must start producing our own vaccines. South Africa is doing that. Now Kenya is taking that, and the AU, Africa CDC, is driving the process of ensuring that we produce our own vaccines from the continent to feed into the challenges, or to address, or to develop homegrown solutions to the challenges that we face as a continent and in Kenya as a country.
Another question here, finally. Can a student, postgrad student, transfer from University A and come to KAIST?
That's a good question. I think
a continuing student.
I think that's a conversation that we need to have with the University Council and my board.
Yes.
But as I said, we said that we are looking for outstanding students. We are going to be...
Okay.
So, if the student is outstanding, of course, the same can... well, in a way, join us. But, this is a conversation that, we need to sort of have as a board or as a council to ascertain the conditions that are required for a person to, transfer from one university.
In football, they call it transfer window.
Transfer window. Transfer window.
That's what we call transfer window. The president must be so happy about this. Okay. And so you said the... South Korea, KAIST and Kenya will be collaborating. Actually, they're in collaboration to make sure this one stands out.
Yes, in June, we were in Korea for the Korea-Africa Summit with the President of Kenya.
Yes.
And, of course, one of the things that we did was to sign, in front of the President of Kenya, an MOU with Korea KAIST and the International Vaccine Institute, now to develop the process of training the best in this country. So we are partnering. Our partnerships will also be with the best. We are talking to Harvard, we are talking to Stanford, we are talking to the University of Tokyo, we are talking to the University of Science and Technology of China, the leading sort of universities in the area of the programs that we are going to undertake in our university. And specifically, as I said, if you go to the area of electro engineering, we want to talk about semiconductors.
Great.
We want to establish a semiconductor industry. We want to ACT engineering. We want to talk about artificial intelligence. We want to talk about robotics. We want to talk about big data and so on and so forth. IoT, because these are the areas that will drive the development of tomorrow. And we don't want to be left behind. So these partnerships that we're going to build should help us as a university and also as a country to ensure that we are at par with the rest of the world and the top of the world in the areas of study that we have.
My colleagues will ask me to ask you this question: why not media engineering? Why not media engineering?
No, I think it's important. We'll continue having a conversation about the same. And as I said,
we need to.
We are starting now, but we are going to review our programs in 3 years. We are going to include more emerging engineering areas, including space science, because we also want to go to the moon, or even aeronautical engineering, and so on and so forth. So that we want to remain in tandem
exactly
with the emerging science, technology, innovation areas.
Thank you so much. I think we've had a very good discussion here, and all the best. I believe by the time that the President will be there to officially commission and open this university, we'll be right there with you as we celebrate this milestone. All right, so that's where we wrap it up. So I'll be talking about enhancing research, innovation and technology with Professor Emmanuel Mutisia, who is the chairman of Kenya Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. Prof, thank you so much for joining us. All right, let's take a break. GMK continues shortly after this. Good morning.
Talented artist, or are you passionate about a topic you want to discuss? But money can be very hard to find for an upcoming artist. Don't worry, Studio Mashinani has got your back. Sign up on ajira.co.ke to book a session with your music and video producers across the country. Work on your music, jingles, spoken words, and even podcasts to realize your dream. All for free. Studio Mashinani, Radani Talent.
That's an hour of time we don't have, Farah. I say we listen to what Kenyanjui has to say, right? How about we focus on the task at hand? Will you come off my back, Katito? I am a woman, I can multitask.
Now that you guys have all of a sudden decided to be Mother Teresa's, let me take my leave.
What kind of nonsense is this? Eh? Why can't you just speak normally?
Masefara, shut up. You are not the director.
Will you pay attention? Eh? You are just about to arrest him.
I shall do no such a thing.
Goodbye. Friday night again.
Greetings in the name of the Most High Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice,
we have to do it twice.
On KBC Channel 1, we are a TV station like no other. Get a taste of the best in entertainment.
Yes, indeed.
Feel the passion.
Will you promise me?
I swear that you will never lose me. I can't get married to you.
I'm sure you knew about it. That's why you're making fun of me.
Experience the drama.
Get out.
Who's the man in this one?
And the laughter.
Sile wakati tulikuwa tunapishwa tunapewa mheshimiwa.
Move to the beat.
We are live from Broadcasting House.
And get informed on the latest happenings. KBC Channel 1.
Wow. Yeah!
We are the full package.
Oh, yes.
And Kenya's watching.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Welcome back to The Viewpoint. My name is Mike Migwe. Now we are talking about matters fire risk enhancement. Now, recently we have witnessed fire cases in schools, and one unfortunate incident is that of Hillside Academy in Nyeri, where pupils lost their lives. So how can we enhance fire safety standards, not only in schools, but also in other commercial places and generally where we live? To help me this conversation in studio, I'm joined by Lucas Ndolo, who is the SGA country director. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much, Mike.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm very well, thank you.
Yes. Karibu sana to GMK. And the first thing I would want you to talk about is matters to do with fire safety assessment. Talk about it, and what is the checklist there?
Well, thank you, Mike. And again, thank you for having me here. I think it's very important that this conversation we're having is very important in terms of public awareness for fire and fire safety. I think it's incumbent on every single institution, you know, where you have a workplace of however many people you have, to make sure that every single year you make sure you have fire audits, you have fire inspections, and you have all that. So it is important for the management of all these institutions to make sure that they go through a checklist, which includes the kind of equipment that you have, the training that is there for people, staff that you may have in the workplace, that you know what kind of response timings are there from on the nearest fire engine, for example. Where is it coming from? If you're in a place, you need to know where is it coming from. You need also to have put into place an effective firefighting team within your workplace, because let's remember, when a fire starts, a fire may start, and within a minute that fire has consumed the entire premises. So by the time you have a fire response team coming to you, it may be 5-10 minutes away. So it is incumbent upon the institution to make sure that they do have firefighting equipment, they have the firefighting protocols, and all these things we talked about a little earlier with you.
Yes. Now, let's focus on schools, but the aspect of having fire drills, especially in boarding schools, is it something that is emphasized on, and is it implemented fully?
I think it would be very difficult to talk about about schools generally. I know there are some schools that do have fire drills, and the law provides that one must have a fire drill at least once a year. In schools, I think it is recommended that you have a fire drill twice every year. And there are some schools that actually have fire drills every term. So as students come back from their holidays, they do have the fire drills, and the assembly areas are clearly marked. The students know where they need to go to in the event of a fire. They have little teams that have been formed where they can help fight the fire, because you do not wait for first responders to come. As an institution, whether it's a school or whatever, you do need to have teams in place that can actually help be the first responders to that fire itself.
Yes. When we were talking off air, and one of the things you mentioned was something to do with fire inductions, that when you are ushered into a place, the first thing that you're supposed to be talked about is about fire safety induction. Talk a little bit about that and why it's important.
Yeah, as you come into a premises, it's if it's your first time there, it's a new environment. So it is important for you to know, in the unlikely event of a fire, where is it that you go? Where do you assemble? So if I came, for example, of coming to KBC, I would expect that as I come in, I would have people, a person come to me,
Yes.
your safety and security and safety personnel, to tell me, look, Lucas, in the unlikely event of a fire, this is where you should go to. We will move to this location at the car park. We will account for the people within that building where we were. So it is important that in every institution that is done for every person coming in. And as we said, we're talking off here, as you were saying a little earlier, it is important that new employees coming to a place, into employment, are inducted on the building where they'll be working, on the workplace. Where are the fire exits? Are they clearly marked? Where are the fire extinguishers? How are the fire extinguishers supposed to be used? There are a lot of people, Mike, you'd be very surprised that that just say, simply because you have a fire extinguisher, a red fire extinguisher on the wall, that you've met fire standards, fire safety standards. You have not. And as we talked with you a little earlier, and I was very happy to see that all your fire extinguishers here, as I walked in, they're all up to date until January 2025. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yes. So clearly that is one of the things that we need to be aware about. And the biggest thing, as we discussed, is about awareness. And that's where we start when we talk about fires. Awareness is very important.
Speaking of awareness, do you think we have enough awareness as to why fire safety standards ought to be a regular thing that people need to be aware about? Do we have that inadequacy?
Mike, it's about culture, and if we do not build that culture, have that culture that a fire is a hazard that we all need to be aware of.
Yes.
That and we say where I work that one life lost is one life too many.
Yes.
And I think we were laughing a little earlier with you, saying that when we are all taught, as children, that if you're bad, you'll go to hell and you'll burn.
Yes.
Of course, death by fire is probably very painful.
Yes.
And my heart goes out to the children who died, in Nyeri, from the fire. But the awareness, I don't think we have enough awareness. I think we need to have a culture shift. We need to be talking a lot more about fires, about what the causes of fire are, and about how we need to protect ourselves. So, I come from a security company, a security background.
Yes.
And, people ask me, I was being asked yesterday, why are you going to talk about fire? And you have watchmen. Firstly, I don't have watchmen, I have security officers. And our security officers have been trained on fire. They've been trained on the basics of being able to put out a fire. They've been taught about a Class A fire, Class B fire, Class C fire. Now, you have institutions will say, let me firstly employ a security company where I'm going to pay 20,000 shillings, and then the guard will be paid 4,000 or 5,000 shillings. Yes. That guard has not gone through fire training. So if we have this shift where all of us, because as we said earlier, fire safety is about everybody. In schools, it's not just about the schools. It's about the parents themselves. The parents need to come out and call out the schools on the fire policies, on the fire training, on having smoke detectors in the dorms or in the classrooms, as we talked with you earlier. So it's a whole culture change that all of us need to be held accountable for.
I think from what you're saying, what I'm getting is we need to have holistic approach. If let's say we are talking about schools, boarding schools, instead of only looking at the welfare of the student in terms of performance, we also need to look at the safety standards in cases where we have tragedies. Now, there's also the aspect of awareness. Now we have, let me use the word, a deficiency of it. So how do we enhance this, and who is responsible in ensuring that this awareness reaches the people?
If we go back to the workplace, I think this must come from the very top. It must come from the owners, from the MD of those companies in terms of awareness. When we come to schools, for example, it needs to come right from the principal. It needs to come from the parents, teachers associations. It needs to come from the parents themselves. We must all hold ourselves accountable for that. So, you know, for example, in schools, we should be able, as I said earlier, as a parent, you should be able to go to a school and ask the headmaster, you know, when is the last time that we had a fire drill? We must hold the school accountable for that. In an office place, a worker should hold, the management, senior management should be held accountable for having fire drills, for having fire training. You know, so all this comes together. It's holistic, as you said, but the accountability must come from the very top. Even when we're talking about fire response, we must hold, you know, the senior most levels accountable for it. I remember reading when we had the fire in Nyeri, that when the response got there, the first people who actually wanted to attend to a fire from outside were actually not firemen. They were policemen who arrived on site. But will you ask yourself, in that county, do we have adequate fire engines? Are the people, as you had alluded to earlier, are they trained, effectively trained? Do we have the fire team from the counties going to the schools, going to the offices, putting themselves out there to conduct fire training, hence increasing the awareness that we've been talking about. So, and you don't have to go to the fire brigade for that. You can go to a security company like SGA and you can say, come, we want you to do a fire audit, or we want you to come and do fire training for our people, and we will be very willing and able to do that.
So that is something that schools and, let's say, even businesses need to invest in terms of enhancing fire safety standards.
Absolutely.
Training.
Yes, and you know, going back to what we are discussing, one of the big culture problems is, you know, are people willing and able to pay for it?
You know, it comes down to cost.
To cost, yeah. So you say, oh, but life is very important. Every institution should have a budget, all right? A budget line for fire safety and fire training. The law provides that you must have, at least any building that you have, you must have a minimum of 10,000 litre tank of water. You must have a pump that's able to scale to the highest point of that building, you know, as a basic. But do people do that? Does that happen? No, it does not happen. The fire provides that you must have fire extinguishers, and those fire extinguishers must be tested annually. You must train people on how to use those fire extinguishers. Otherwise, if you have fire extinguishers and the people haven't been trained, what's going to happen? There's a case where we went to a place where a fire happened, and employees took fire extinguishers and threw them at the fire. That's how extreme it is.
They don't know how to use it.
They don't know how to use it, but I think it might throw it there, it explodes, and it will put out the fire.
Wow. Yeah. Now, let's come back to schools. Are there are the same fire protocols for schools? Are they the same as for commercial places? Or is there a difference?
They should be different, because remember, this is a place that we're talking about having young children.
Yes.
For example, if we're talking about fire drills and we're talking about fire inspections, I think personally the fire drills should be, as we said, more regular. You know, by law you're supposed to have fire drill once a year. I think in schools, as I said earlier, you should actually have fire drills every single term. You should have fire training for the fire marshals and the teams you put together every single term, and not every year like in commercial buildings or in factories. So I think the protocols and the awareness and the training in schools should be a lot more, especially now that we're seeing all this. But you know what happens, as we said with you earlier, that yes, we have these incidents of fires that have happened. They'll not happen for another couple of months, and we forget all about this until another fire happens, when we will start talking about fires again. It needs to be a culture change.
What we do is we are reactive, instead of being proactive.
Absolutely.
Let's go back a little. You talked about classes of fire there's class A fire, class B fire. Talk a little bit about that.
So there are different fires. You know, you can get a fire that's an electric fire.
Yes.
You can get a fire that is that has come from, for example, from gas or whatever have you. So the different kinds of fires are treated differently, and they're handled and they're put out differently. I don't know whether it was you we're having a conversation with when we are talking about having a fire in the kitchen. So yeah, so you ask and people say, oh, you've asked questions of which is the safest place if you had a fire, which is the easiest place to put out a fire. So a lot of people would say, oh, it's the kitchen. Why? Because there's water in the kitchen. Now remember, most kitchen fires are from oil, cooking oil.
Yes.
What happens when you put water on that fire? You actually do not put it off. So the question we ask ourselves is, do you have in your kitchen, do you have a fire blanket? A fire blanket, you'd be able to extinguish the fire in the kitchen quite easily. Do you have a simple thing, a smoke detector? And these days, they're not expensive, having a smoke detector in your kitchen. So the different classes of fires, a fire that you come from electricity, from a power surge, for example, that creates a spark, and that spark lights up a fire. A fire that is in the kitchen that has come, oil has caught fire or that. Every single fire is supposed to be put out differently. There's fires that you put out with powder, there's fire that you put out with foam, and there are fires that you can put out with water.
Yes.
So those are the different classes of fire.
Yes. What do you think affects a response to fire tragedies, going by what we witness within the country?
I think, firstly, it's the awareness that we talked about and the training.
Yes.
Because as we said, you don't expect there to be a fire engine right out there to help you put out the fire. And most of fires will move very quickly. So the training, having adequate training, awareness and training of the members in that institution is very important, because it will be able to at least control the fire before you actually have the proper response coming in. But I think also it's, and we discussed this with you. If you pay our fire responders well enough, you'll probably find people want to go into that profession. If we pay our policemen well enough, you expect people want to go there. If you pay your security officers well enough, people want to be security officers. So I think one of the biggest problems that we have is that our fire fighting response has been overlooked. I believe that we need to look at our fire responders as the proper professionals that they are, and we need to pay them well enough to be able to have people stick to those jobs and do them professionally.
It's also a way of attracting more personnel in terms of people wanting to go in that line of work.
Absolutely.
Because in some countries, you look at in some countries like the United States, firefighting is a whole profession. They take it very seriously, and they have dedicated people who deal with fire. It's a whole profession.
Absolutely.
Now, what are the challenges that you think schools and residential spaces face in terms of implementing these safety protocols, and how can they be addressed?
I think we've talked about it, and you hit the nail on the head when you said it's actually about cost. You know, a lot of people, look at what you need to protect yourself against fire as expensive. You know, it's a little bit like insurance. You do not want to pay for insurance, but you pay for it. Nothing may happen for 3-4 years. But when it happens, you are well taken care of when you go to hospital. It's the same thing with fire. So fire training, fire awareness, fire equipment, you invest in all these things in the unlikely event that there is a fire. So I think the primary first challenge that is there is actually cost. And I think every institution should have a budget line on fire, on fire safety, where they talk about their fire equipment, where they talk about training, where they talk about audits, and where they talk about inspections. So moving away from a fire just being a tragedy that you cannot avoid, you know, you need to put your house in order, whatever institution you have, and make sure that you are prepared.
Yes.
And that costs money. And that's where usually the problem is.
Exactly. There's also the issue of lags in terms of inspections for fire safety protocols. I think that you would agree that is also a problem that we face.
Yes, I think that's a problem. But again, it goes back to what we were talking about. Do we have the capacity within our country? Do we have enough fire inspectors? Do we have enough people to go around? But again, it's incumbent on the institution itself to go out there and say, right, I am going to this private institution in case I cannot get a government institution to come and do fire audits for me. I am going to this fire institution to come and do fire training for me. I am also going to make sure that if I have a new building I've put up and I need electrical works done, I'm not going to go and pick up my brother Njoroge Omondi to come and install new lights for me. I will go to a company that has NCA certification to come and do those installations. So when you come to me as a security company and you want me to install a fire alarm or you want me to install a fire suppression system, you need to know that I am properly certified to be able to do that. I'm properly certified to be able to do the electrical works that are there. Because if you do not do that, you will put yourself at risk in the end when a fire comes to be.
Well, in terms of accountability, because one way or another someone has to be accountable, what measures, in your own view, need to be there in ensuring that those who violate fire safety standards are dealt with according to the law?
As I said earlier, it has to be at the very top. I run a company. I run SGA Kenya. I think if I do not have my fire drills, if I do not have my fire inspections, if I do not have my fire extinguishers being properly serviced and maintained, I should be held accountable for that. And it is me who needs to be taken to task on that. So I don't think we need to treat it as a small issue. And I think it needs to be treated as a major issue where the owners and the senior management are held accountable, personally accountable for that.
How do you think technology is reshaping fire safety standards within buildings today?
Technology is doing it's actually doing wonders. Today it is easy and very inexpensive to have a fire system in your premises, whether it is in your residence, for example, which will alert you in the event that we're sitting here on your telephone. You can get an alert. Some of the systems that SGA puts into place, for example, is domestic security, where we will install smoke detectors. We will install an intelligent panel that will be able to send this information to you that you have a problem in your house. We have CO2 detectors in the kitchen. So technology has helped, and I think also in terms of with a newer movement, with a younger generation, being able to send out clips of what is happening in places. This is actually very good for training. We're able to train people and show them this was what has happened in a place. This is how we can stop a fire from happening. This is how I recently saw some clips that were there on social media on an exploding meko, for example. How do you treat an exploding meko? And I was actually very happy to see that if you have a bucket, turn the bucket upside down and put it over the meko. The fire goes off. I didn't know that myself, but these are things that are out there. With the advent of technology, we're able to spread the word a lot more in terms of fighting fires, in terms of having the proper equipment to help you, alert you that there is a fire, and then you can react to it.
There's something that I've remembered. We're talking about fire safety standard for schools, but also we cannot run away from the fact that we have informal settlements. What are the right fire safety protocols for those areas? Because sometimes you hear there is a fire in Kibra, there is a fire in Mukuru kwa Ruben, and so on and so forth. What are the fire safety protocols or standards within the informal settlements?
I think it would be Honestly, it will be very difficult to adopt and enforce standards in those informal settlements. But I think what can be done is we can create access routes into those informal settlements. The challenge that has always been there is that if you have a fire at Mkurukwaruben or you have a fire in Kibra, you know, if the fire engine getting to where the fire is a challenge. So I think we'd have to go back to what I like very much, the Nyumba Kumi, where the people come together, they're able to create access routes that can get into those settlements and be able to assist to put out the fire. We also need to bring the communities together where they work together, and we've seen it when there's a fire that actually communities come together, they help try to put out the fire, because by the time a fire engine gets there, you can have hundreds of houses that have been razed. So I think we will need to have perhaps more support in these settlements. We need to be able to provide, water at these central water points that can be used to help put out the fires. I know this is perhaps a tall order because we actually don't, in a lot of these areas, we don't have supply. But I think it should be incumbent in that community to come together in every area, maybe every Nyumba Kumi, 10, 20 houses, have a 10,000-litre tank, as we're talking about, to help put out the fires. But then you're asking us to do that when there's probably no water in the houses themselves. So it's a bit of a challenge, but I think the first thing should be to create proper access to be able to put out those fires in those places.
Thank you so much. That was our time.
Well, thank you for having me, and I hope to come to KBC again.
Yes, you are very much welcome.
Thank
we
you.
hope to host you again.
Thank you.
That is Lucas Ndolo, who is the SGA Security Country Director, speaking to us about matters enhancing fire safety standards within the country. This is where we cap this conversation, but don't go too far. The Viewpoint continues shortly with Vivian Ndegwa. Stay with us.
Mtazamaji, tumekuandalia taarifa zinazogonga vichwa vya vyombo vya habari kutoka hapa jijini Nairobi na pia mashinani.
Wanahabari zaidi ya ubora wao wako ange kukuletea habari pindi zinapochipuka kutoka pembe zote za Kenya.
Kwenye kipindi cha Tamrini, tunakuletea mazungumzo ya moja kwa moja kufafanua na kuangazia masuala yanayokuhusu wewe mtazamaji.
Kumbuka, taarifa yenye thamani daima hupokewa kwa amani.
Hivyo basi usikose kuungana nasi kila siku ya wiki.
Tukupakulie na tukutaarifu taarifa yenye mnato kwenye runinga unayoienzi. Kwenye kurunzi mashinani,
sisi DC.
Thank you for joining us on Healthy Living. Stay connected to Voice of America at voanews.com. A look at your kidneys and how they impact your health. And an expert discusses chronic kidney disease and how to protect yourself. And Ivorian psychologist Noor Bakayoko shares some insights on bullying and what can be done.
It's important to avoid major events or major health crises.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers. Stay well
and strive to make every day a healthy day.
The young generation awakens on Y254, the leading youth TV station in Kenya. We treat you to current affairs, entrepreneurship, health, and human interest conversations.
It's art, it's culture.
Movies, gossip and trends, sports, drama.
We bring you a vibe like no other, straight to your living room.
To keep you informed, inspired, entertained, and most of all, refreshed.
We are such a vibe.
Y254. Imagine.
Pollution might not be a major concern to most of us, but it is among the leading causes of death in Kenya, and especially right here in Nairobi. The World Health Organization estimates that 19,000 people die annually from air pollution. Today we shift our focus on transport air pollution, its effects on the environment, and most importantly, its effects to you and me, and generally the human life. Transport is one of the biggest contributors to air pollution, and it affects health in many ways, both positively and negatively. Some of its benefits include access to education, employment, goods, services, and leisure, as well as incorporating physical activity into daily living. The transport sector, however, has its setbacks when it comes to the human health and climate change. For instance, air pollution, noise pollution, obesity, greenhouse gas emissions, and injuries. In this case, transport air pollution is one of the leading risk factors for death, but its impacts go even further. And according to Dr. Mwaniki, a climate change expert, air pollution is one of the main contributors to global disease burden.
Air pollution has many impacts. The main concern is its impact on health. Some of the biggest issues is things like asthma, heart diseases, stroke. It has also been linked to premature stillborns, and also some forms of cancer, and also diabetes. So it's linked to a lot of diseases. And why this is the case is because when you breathe in that air, the way God made your system, if you eat dirty food, the stomach has acids and a way of getting rid of those elements that get into the food system. Same thing with water, but when you breathe in dirty air, the system did not evolve or was not created to live in polluted areas. So when you breathe in that air, it goes straight to your lungs, and then from the lungs, it penetrates to the bloodstream. So there is no protection mechanism. And because different chemicals are usually in the air, so once they get in the bloodstream, then they affect different organs differently. And that's why you hear it has these very wide health impacts. In the short term, when you breathe that air, you might feel wheezing, coughing. Those are the immediate impacts when you're in a smoky house. But when you're in a room like this or walking around the city, you might not experience those short-lived impacts. But once you breathe those chemicals and get into the bloodstream, then later on they'll have some impact to your health.
To some extent, transport pollution leads to effects on mental health, including risk-taking and aggressive behaviors, depression, and the post-traumatic psychological effects of accidents, which shortens life expectancy. In prenatal, air pollution leads to reduced growth. At birth, it leads to decreased lung growth, reduced lung function, lower respiratory infections, and developmental effects. Air pollution concentrations on roads are relatively high, and commuters face unavoidable exposure during commuting as they are near the sources of emissions.
When a car passes through you, where you are seated or walking, you see the smoke, you smell the gasoline. Transport sector contributes around 40 to 50% of pollution in Nairobi. And the main reason is because there are very limited regulations on how to maintain vehicles.
Transport air pollution plays a major role when it comes to climate change.
Air pollution has a couple of pollutants that also do drive the climate system. And they're called the short-lived climate pollutants. These include particulate matter, things like ground level ozone, NO2, which is more of an air pollution, but because of atmospheric processes, it does lead to formation of ozone. We do have other things like black carbon, which is an air pollutant, is a particulate, but also is a major driver of air pollution.
Greenhouse emissions, which could result from human activities such as burning fossil fuels and deforestation, release gases like carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, hydrocarbons, among others, which have been proven harmful to the human body and the environment into the atmosphere, trapping the heat from the sun, hence causing global warming, which contributes to both health issues and climate change with severe temperature changes. There are several strategies we can, however, apply to curb transport air pollution. For instance, promoting public transportation, which includes the use of buses, trains, and subways, which in turn reduces the number of individual car trips and lowers emissions. Active transportation, which involves walking and cycling, is another step toward reducing transport air pollution, not only in Nairobi, but across the country. The Kenyan government has put in effort towards transitioning to electric vehicles, which is a move that will help reduce emissions and also help curb the risk of transport air pollution. Efficient urban planning is another key strategy, as it involves designing cities to minimize travel distances, integrate residential, commercial, and recreational areas to reduce the need for long commutes. Building climate change resilient infrastructure or investing in infrastructure that adapts to changing climate conditions would also be a possible solution to address the transport changes in Kenya. Remember, let's unite to clear the air, safeguarding our health and the generations to come.
We are glad that you are with us. This is Good Morning Kenya right here on KBC Channel 1. My name is Vivian Ndegwa, and we get into another conversation right here on The Viewpoint this beautiful Wednesday morning. And we will be speaking about tourism between Kenya and Uganda. And joining me in studio on my immediate right is Esther Akoth Kokeo. She is the current brand ambassador Uganda Kenya Tourism. She was actually appointed by the Ugandan government. She is also an entrepreneur, being the CEO Akothe Safaris and the director Akothe Academy, and we all know her as a philanthropist as well. Madam Kokeo, welcome to the show. And then we also have Ambassador Paul Mukumbya. Ambassador Paul Mukumbya is Uganda's Consulate General in Mombasa. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
We are pleased to have you here today, and we're going to be talking about the tourism between Kenya and Uganda. First of all, Madam Akothe, what does this new role mean to you, you know, as the brand ambassador for Uganda and Kenya tourism?
I think my manifestation has come to reality. I've been a travel agent for the past 15 years under Akothe Safaris. I've been marketing Kenya, you know, as part of my business and also as part of my passion, because I'm a passionate person about tourism. And I always believe in this fact that do what you can with what you have where you are. You never know who is watching. I never knew Uganda would one day, you know, land on me and say, hey, we'd like you to come and be a brand ambassador in terms of supporting and being the patron to advocating for tourism.
Yeah.
I'm still pinching myself. Yeah, and this new role is my bread and butter. Therefore, I don't find anything challenging. It's just like a walk in the park for me because I've been doing it for the longest.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really do appreciate Ugandan government and especially to my ambassador. I really do appreciate. It has given me a different role. You can see that even my dressing code
It has changed. Yeah, we love this new Akothe. We definitely love this new. We're used to Akothe, but today we're saying I'm calling you Esther. So Esther, we love this new person that you are. Now, Ambassador Paul, probably how did you go about picking Akothe for this role?
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for hosting me this morning. Akothe, we also picked her as Akothe, but these days...
It's so hard not to call you Akothe, by the way.
Yes, but it's because of the social capital she has. Her followers on social media, and we wanted to have someone who can reach out to as many Kenyans as possible, but even beyond, to introduce the pearl of Africa, which is Uganda, to the Kenyan market. Already Kenya is our #1 source market for visitors to Uganda, and last year about 500,000 Kenyans visited Uganda. But we want these numbers to grow, and she has said that she's going to triple, if not quadruple those numbers to 2 million Kenyans visiting Uganda. And you know, her outreach is not only in Kenya. She's an international brand. So who wouldn't wish to associate with such a brand? So for us, we saw her as a gem. We saw her as someone who could really sell Uganda. There's so many very attractive products that we have, and most of which she has already seen, because we took her on a familiarization trip to Uganda to initiate her into this work. She visited the Mashon Falls. They are the strongest falls in the world. They are in Uganda. She visited Ingamba Chimpanzee Sanctuary. We have so many chimpanzees in Uganda. She visited the Ndere Center. It's a cultural center in Kampala. So all these are products which we have been promoting, but also in line with our concept. We've been promoting this for the last 3 years, but we have been promoting complementarity between the products in Uganda and those at the Kenya coast. The Kenya coast has the beaches, which we don't have in Uganda. We have the mountain gorillas, the chimpanzees, the Kampala city tour, the Mashon Falls I've just talked about, which are not in Kenya.
Yeah.
So we've been promoting complementarity other than competition between the two destinations. And we thought that Esther could play a very big role to create more awareness about these products so that the Kenyans, instead of traveling to Dubai, to wherever, where they have to look for visas, a Kenyan doesn't need a visa to visit Uganda. A Kenyan doesn't need a passport, he only needs a national identity card to visit Uganda.
Yeah.
A Kenyan doesn't even need to fly to Uganda. You can just board a bus.
And go on by road.
Go by road or drive yourself to Uganda. So that's why for us the Kenyan market is very important. That's why we have this brand ambassador to create more awareness about Uganda in Kenya and beyond, so that we grow the tourism numbers. Because we also say tourism is the lowest hanging fruit, which we want to tap into. Because it doesn't take a lot of money to invest in tourism. If you are to travel next door to Uganda, you don't need thousands of dollars. So this is why we picked on Esther to be one of our biggest brand ambassadors in this very important market that Kenya is.
All right. Now to you, Esther, you know, someone may be wondering, how come you've been chosen, you know, to sell Uganda? But it's not a new thing. The other day, a few years ago, we had Naomi Campbell selling Kenya. You know, she was the brand ambassador for tourism, you know, of Kenya. And, you know, we had people talking. So if you can just talk about that, why it's not necessarily important for one to sell their own country. Like you can be an ambassador for a different country as long as you have the reach to reach, you know, enough people for that.
I think it's not just being a brand ambassador. And not everybody have influence. You can have millions of followers, but you have no conversion. It's about the marketing strategy and the kind of brand you are. What are you selling? Are you selling a lifestyle? Can you back it up? Is it your daily life? Because you can, normally I advise companies not to go for the following, but to go for a brand that resonates with the following. What are your consumers consuming from you as a brand? Not every brand can sell any country. For example, if you take, who can I say? When Naomi Campbell was chosen to be the brand ambassador for Kenya, I don't like controversies, but for sure I never saw any impact. If it was there, maybe the Ministry of Tourism knows, but I don't want to talk about that. I found it a bit weird because people don't, my age and the age coming after me, the Gen Zs don't resonate or relate with Naomi Campbell. She's too much high there. And when you see her in a hotel, you'll think that that hotel belongs to the rich of the rich. Because that's the kind of lifestyle. The kind of lifestyle she lives. Before you pick on a brand ambassador to be okay, it's too early in the morning. We're struggling with my English, right? Or is it menopause?
To sell a country.
Not a country, to sell your product. Then it has to be something that resonates with the kind of following she controls. I've been in this industry for the first 15 years. And I'm not angry that the government of Kenya doesn't see me. Somebody else has seen me. And I believe up until now, Uganda has been able to fill the brand accord. I live real life, and what you see is what you get. A company will only pick you if you have value. I've been the brand ambassador, and I'm also a marketing consultant. So I know how to package a product and present it to my clientele. It's not just about having millions of followers. We have celebrities who are just celebrities for being celebrated for nothing. We have those who are celebrated for being a musician. Not every musician can sell a product. People know them for good music. The other side, they might not be able to do it. So for you to be able to sell a product, you have to have a background in marketing so that it's easy done. Just posting and taking photos will not bring conversion. How do you convert? What value do you bring on the table as a brand ambassador?
Okay. Maybe to you, Ambassador Paul, you know, you had the conference, you know, the tourism conference, that's the Uganda-Kenya Coast Tourism Conference. If you can tell us more about that, what the conference is all about.
Yes, we've been having these conferences since 2022. We had the first conference in Mombasa in 2022, November. That's when we decided, it was because of the popularity of this initiative, we decided that it becomes an annual event. So we had that one in Mombasa. Last year we had the second one in Diani, Kwale County. which was attended by the first one in Mombasa was attended by about 250 delegates from both Uganda and Kenya. Last year we had about 500 delegates attending the conference in Diani, with over 200 coming from Uganda. This year the third conference is happening in Kampala at Speak Resort Munyonyo. Already we have over 700 delegates registered for the conference, out of whom about 250 now going to 300 are Kenyans. So we have the conference on 20th and 21st at Speak Resort in Munyonyo. But before that we have a farm trip beginning on 8th to 18th. And why do we have the farm trip? The farm trip is that it will take the Kenyan stakeholders around Uganda. These products I've talked about, we are going to take them to Bwindi to do gorilla tracking, to Kibale to do chimpanzee tracking. We take them to Jinja for adventure tourism on the River Nile. We take them to Machon Falls. We take them to Chidepo National Park. We do a city tour of Kampala, where we have the Kampala city Kampala nightlife. By the way, Kampala is the capital city of nightlife in this region.
Is it
yes,
really?
You can benchmark us on that.
Does it defeat Nairobi?
Ooh.
The nightlife in Nairobi is crazy.
You try it out.
Akotha, you've tried it? The nightlife in Uganda?
To relocate to Uganda.
We have a night bus, which is a moving disco in Kampala. You get on that bus, you begin dancing, you begin drinking. So this is a unique product. We have the Uganda Matters shrines in Namugongo. So these are products that we are going to showcase to the Kenyan tourism stakeholders. And why are we doing this farm trip? Because we want the stakeholders to experience these products, to know them firsthand, so that thereafter they are able to sell them. Because you can, sometimes they are what I call Google operators. They go on Google, they say, I want to take a visitor to Uganda. Then you do the whole itinerary using Google. And sometimes Google is not very accurate. So that's why we are taking these 100 Kenyans to experience Uganda, to see all these products, to see the hotels, to form partnerships and networks, so that thereafter they are able to very ably and confidently sell Uganda from a point of knowledge, from a point of experience. Then on the 9th, we have a golf tournament. We are also promoting golf tourism. You know, golfers are people whom I call people who have reasonable disposable income.
Yeah. That's another way to say rich people, like wealthy people.
Exactly. And it's for that reason that I'm not a golfer.
Okay.
Because I don't have reasonable disposable income yet. I'm still struggling to raise reasonable but we have a golf tournament on 9th at Uganda Golf Club in Kampala. This is a return tournament. We had the first one at Vipingo Ridge in April this year. So we want to tap into the enormous resources of these golfers. You know, when they travel and to play golf, they don't only play golf. They sleep in our hotels. They also do a bit of tourism. So that's why we also have onboarded golf tourism as part of our activities. And this is also going to be an annual event. Next year in 2025, we are going to be in Kilifi County. They will host the 4th tourism conference. So that's what we are planning. We are also planning to onboard, working with our brand ambassador here. We are onboarding a lot of other sports tourism and all these other activities. At the end of the day, we want to see 2 million Kenyans visiting Uganda annually.
Are we also going to be seeing Ugandans coming to Kenya, Kothe, or are we just going to Uganda?
Now that's where the jealousy comes from. What is Kenya doing for Ugandans to come to? You see, I'm the brand ambassador for Uganda. It starts with Uganda, to Kenya. So we are doing our part as Ugandans. I'm sorry, I want to make you feel so bad. Because you've been ignoring me for the longest.
It's all right.
I've done quite a lot of proposals from the county government to the national government on how we are able to collaborate and bring these so-called low-hanging fruits to the high end. And whatever I wasn't able to do to Kenya, I'm going to give Uganda my best. We are not in competition, we are in collaboration. And so if Kenya is seeing what we are doing, they are supposed to reciprocate and do the same. We are in complementarity. There's some products that Kenya has that Uganda don't have, and there are some products that Uganda has, and the ones that Kenya don't have. As I am working together with Gulf Cup Real Estate, and trust you me, their biggest market is Ugandans buying property in Kenya, but nobody's showcasing that. And I'll give big applause to Ambassador. I was asking him yesterday, why tourism? Until he told me that things have changed, whereby they don't involve themselves in politics, but now to provide, you know, an opportunity to market tourism, because it's one of the biggest economy that brings like income. How we want to market this right now is we want something called inclusivity. How are we going to include the youths, the artifacts, the artisans, mothers, women, children, you know? We're coming up with each and every section where we will have sports tourism, which will be hosted by one and only the biggest influence when it comes to sports. We will have entertainment tourism, so that all the artists and celebrities who feel like the only thing they can do is to hold a microphone, whether you are an MC, whether you are a radio presenter, we will be having that. Then we're gonna have Wabebe for the night live, none other than Willis Raburu. You know what he does to the Gen Zs. Then we are going to have investment tourism, where we invite all the real estate agencies to come and, you know, board the boat, because real estate agencies also have a bigger market in the United States, you know, in diaspora. We are going big. Uganda, we are going big. So Kenya, you better come and benchmark. When it comes to culture, I visited Uganda. I said I'm an imbecile, and I'm sorry for selling what I don't know. I only knew Uganda for gorilla. Just the same way Kenya is known only for the beach. And I also used to sell what I don't have. Ambassador, I used to make packages for 10 days, and I think that's selfish. I would tell a client, okay, you come, you rest at the beach, then I take you to Savo East to go and see elephants in the Big Five, then I take you to Amboseli, you're going to see the Big Five, then I take you to Masai Mara, you're going to see the Big Five. Excuse me, is that not too boring? Yeah, so now we've changed the game. We are gonna do 5 days in Kenya and 5 days in Uganda. You do that because Ugandans don't, the beach Ambassador is selling, please, you're embarrassing me, sir. Stop selling this beach in Uganda because you have none. We said we are in complementarity and not in competition. So don't compete with the ocean. Let's allow us sell our beaches shrimps
here in Kenya. You
have shrimps? There's shrimps, yeah. So you sell the Nile, because the fish here in Kenya is also but a joke. Come to Uganda and be served fish.
Oh wow, Akote, you're really the champion of Uganda here today.
I just went there one day. I went to the Murchison Falls, where I saw such a huge fall in my life, and I think it took away all my depression. You see how relaxed I am? And it's the land of romance. I came back so much in love, and I think everybody should come to Uganda and have a look at it. Okay. I ignored Uganda, not knowing Uganda is only 45 minutes away. So to all my Nairobi people watching me, we have Ugandan airline flying every day twice. We know we like to party. Let's take the flight in the morning and go there and come back Sunday evening, afternoon. And on Monday you are at work. Yeah.
All right. So, Ambassador, we are really championing collaborations and not competition, right?
Sure,
you know,
sure.
So it's a collaboration between the two countries, Kenya and Uganda. Maybe what's the importance of such? You know, if us as Africans can come together and just promote each other, what's the importance of, or what can that do for us?
You know, COVID taught us one thing, not to rely so much on international tourism. So what this collaboration is doing is building regional tourism. And you know, as I said earlier, it is much cheaper for us to travel within the region. It also helps us to do away with the seasonality, because those international tourists are seasonal. They come during summer, and maybe some during winter, when they are running away from winter. But for us in the region, we don't need to plan our travel a year ahead. I may now decide that over the weekend, the Nairobian may decide that over the weekend I'm going to Kampala. They don't need to have planned that for a year. So we want to grow this regional tourism because it is a low-hanging fruit. That's what this collaboration helps us about. But also, another thing about regional tourism, you know, these international tourists respond to advisories. There is a threat in Kenya, in Kampala. They say, please don't travel to this region. There is Ebola, there is Mandamano. please don't travel to Kenya, don't travel to Uganda, don't travel because there is Mpox. But you can't stop a Kenyan from traveling to Uganda just because there is Mpox. So really, these are the two key issues: doing away with the seasonality and dealing with the challenges of these advisories that stop the international tours. Once we grow this regional tourism, it will be able to grow the numbers that all our destinations are looking for, growing them by millions and whatever. This is the way to go. The regional tourism first, then the international can be adds on. But once we grow this regional tourism, it really helps us to grow the numbers that we all are targeting.
Yeah, and maybe just if you can continue echoing what he was saying, because you've been in this industry for the longest with Akothe Safaris, you've been doing the tours and travel for the longest. Maybe just how important has that been for you, you know, as a Kenyan, yes, but just for us as Africans to be able to move around?
I've always wanted to sell my culture. And back to Akothe Safaris, I've visited all the Masai Mara, the Masai culture. That is our, you know, our selling point. Kenya has 47 counties with different culture, which has not been, you know, tapped into and have not been packaged to be sold. Kenya has no culture to be sold to any tourist. Visit Uganda. I was ashamed, and I think we all need to come to Uganda and do a benchmark of what culture looks like. Until I walk into the Ndere Cultural Center and I saw culture that is packaged. I sat for 4 hours watching, listening, absorbing, and I'm like, I'm going back to my country and I'll do this to my country one day. It is high time we learn from our neighboring country and understand why our tourists are living for the neighboring country, because we've been selling, we became so comfortable as Kenyan tourism, and we just know that Kenya is the #1. Now we are almost #9, and I don't know why. There's nowhere you can compare that. And until I visited Uganda, I realized that if we are not careful, we are going to lose all the tourists as well, because Uganda is coming up now. They have everything we might not have, and that's why we are bringing on the cross-border tourism. That what we are neighboring a country, but we do not know our neighbors. We just know the name Uganda. When I looked at how they've incorporated their parliament, I don't know if you can visit our parliament. We have they've created jobs for the call them what
guides.
The guides. There's a guide who just, you know, took me aback. Like, he was like, okay, let me walk you through this. We are the Buganda Kingdom. We are in Buganda Kingdom. We are the Bagandas. We speak Luganda. Our country is Uganda. I don't know if we have something like that. And we walked through the whole parliament. We were told about what is to be done, where and when, with who. When I landed in Entebbe, I was expecting the worst, because I've been to Nigeria. I've traveled a lot, and I know what happens in these airports. There was a section for tourists to sit and wait for their luggage. The luggage was late, but I didn't realize, because there was a space for me, a VIP lounge that I sat, not because I'm a VIP, but for the tourist, because I'm a tourist as much as I'm black. You know, in Kenya, tourists, they only believe is those white people, until COVID came, that now we have domestic tourists. So I don't call Uganda international tourism. I call it, it's a cross-border, because you can go without a passport. And I ask all Kenyans to come to Uganda so that we learn. And Kenyans also will come to, Ugandans will come to Kenya so that they learn. And that's why we call it complementarity and collaboration and not competition. Yeah.
All right. She's talked about culture and the different cultures between the two countries. Maybe how does tourism foster that cultural exchange?
Tourism, culture plays a very big role in tourism promotion. For us at the Kenya coast, earlier this year in April, we did what we called the Uganda Festival at the Kenya coast. And that's when we first brought in the Sindere cultural group to the coast. We did performances in Mombasa, in Diani, in Malindi, and also at Vipingo Ridge, because culture is something that is unique. There is no culture that resembles the other largely. The Baganda culture in Uganda is very different, for example, from the Luo culture in Nyanza. And the first selling point for any destination should be its culture, because that's something that you cannot find elsewhere. So that's why we have taken cultural tourism as playing a key role. The Buganda kingdom that she's talking about, and which for many years was part of the history that is studied even in Kenya. Every Kenyan that we take to Bulange, the seat of the Buganda kingdom, and the Kasubi tombs, where some of the Buganda kings are buried, and the Uganda Martyrs Shrine, the martyrs were killed by one of the Buganda kings. This is really part of our culture, and it is unique, and it is very attractive to many people who listen to the story of the Buganda kingdom, the Buganda kings, the Buganda language, the food. We have something called Luwombo.
Never heard of it.
Oh, that's why I want you to visit. Have you ever been to Uganda?
No, I haven't.
Sorry
but
about
I'll plan
that.
to.
Sorry about that.
I will plan to. Yeah.
She ate the Luwombo.
So what's Luwombo?
Luwombo, it is, we harvest a young banana leaf, and then it is heated a bit on fire. Then we can put in that banana leaf, we can put their sauce, we can put their groundnut paste, we can put their chicken, we can put their beef, we can all types of fish, especially smoked fish, combined with the groundnut paste.
Okay.
And then it is wrapped and steamed. I can see you salivating. This is something that is unique to Uganda. You cannot find Luwombo anywhere. So these are some of the important things that culture plays in promotion of tourism. And every country should preserve its culture as part of its tourism.
I agree with you on that. We should learn to preserve our culture, because that's what also makes us us. You know, our culture is what makes us us and distinguishes us from everyone else. Maybe Akothe, you know, today being a Wednesday, we normally have a segment on women at the forefront, where we bring forth women who are at the forefront. You know, and you're one of those women, because you do a lot. We have to give you that. You know, you have a school. You started a school, which is a good thing. So probably just what is the importance of women being included? Because now you're an ambassador of Uganda. You know, as a woman, just how important is that inclusion? Because women, as women, we've come from really far. We've come from a time where women could not even drive, could not own property and land and whatnot. So what's the importance of that and that inclusion for women? What does that mean?
Okay, now I have to switch. Yeah, I would say that gone are days when a woman's place belonged to the kitchen. Because you can see that the cost of living is quite high, and we cannot depend on our husbands anymore to bring food back at home. People normally think that when I say I'm the president of single mothers, I mean that that's the title I want to keep. That one is not a title. That one is a typical journey of a single parent, be it a man or a woman, raising children in the absence or the privilege of the other partner. You see, you have to be responsible in your own accord. You have to be happy in your own sense. You have to fix yourself before you fix any other person. So that when someone comes into your life now, they just come to complement and not dependence. Reasons as to why women have to be included and given opportunities is for us to be independent, to be an independent thinker. That if we were living in Nairobi together with my husband and he passes on, not that I'm now being carried back to the village and now start a new life in the village because our breadwinner is gone. You are not marrying a bank, sorry. You are not being adopted. You are getting into a partnership. We want, people complain about this 50-50. I don't really have a problem in having a 50-50 share in my relationship, because that is the only time that I will have a voice in that house and I will be heard. But if I call myself a woman, it's just a woo because we have a womb, but we are men. So we can equally do things that men do apart from the other ones that we can't. I'm talking about work. Yeah. I am in real estate, and most of the time I'm building, I'm having any construction going on. Trust you me, 70% of the casual workers are women. Men just sit down and wait, especially in Mombasa. It's a bit the other way around. Women work harder than men. So I really do appreciate the fact that we have included women. And when you look at our theme this year at the 3rd Uganda-Kenya conference in Uganda, there is that part of inclusivity. And how are women included in this? The moment we boost tourism, and there's a lot of money circulation, there will be a lot of stalls, right? There will be a lot of artifacts, and we'll have a lot of artisans. When you look at the Ndere Cultural Center, the women who received me at the airport, my God, I think this fort is not doing me justice. They were shaking there, you know? So that's also part of inclusivity. So we should motivate women. And again, what I don't really like about our men of these days, I am an advocate of marriage. I believe in marriage. And I will still get married until the day I'll die. Because I am going into a relationship with somebody I don't know. And I do not know their expectations until they tell me. So it's just a trial and error. And I would like to ask each and every young girl watching me right now, take your time. And I'm telling you from an experience. I rejected education when I was the age of 13. I was only supposed to be a child, a student, and a daughter to my parents. I decided to become a wife and a mother at the age of 13. So I started my life upside down. That's why normally I say I'm not a role model, not even to myself, because it took blood and flesh to build the lady you are seeing here. Otherwise, off cameras, I belong to the dead. So if I was disciplined enough, I would have achieved the things I have achieved now at an early stage, and I would have started dating right now. But because of indiscipline, I decided to start my life upside down. And that's why I spent 14 years in school to acquire a degree that I would have done 4 years ago. Now I'm in school as someone's wife, divorced, all those things, which comes with at a cost. So I urge all women, if you ever dropped in school, out of school, please come back. Don't sit down and start envying me and start asking, why is Akode the brand ambassador for? What do you have? You have value. When you see somebody appointed, you start hating. Why did they appoint so-and-so? But do you have papers? Do you have documents? As at now, I'm a HRP, Human Resource Practitioner. And I'm doing my master's currently at Mount Kenya University. I'm pursuing my CHRP. So next year, when I come back on this bench, you'll be introducing me as CHRP, Esther Akoth. Okay.
All right. And we love that for you. We really love that for you. Now, Ambassador Paul, maybe if you can talk about the theme for this year's conference, we almost come to a close.
The theme for this year's conference is the Uganda-Kenya Coast Partnership, promoting job creation, inclusivity, and sustainability. You know, these days, it is very important to do sustainable tourism. Otherwise, if we don't do sustainable tourism in the next 20, 30 years, we shall not have habitats for the mountain gorillas, for the chimpanzees, and all these other things. So climate change is affecting the tourism, or will affect if we don't practice sustainable tourism. Inclusivity, which Esther has been talking about, and job creation. And you know, tourism cuts across all sectors of the economy. So once you promote tourism, you are promoting economic growth. It supports agriculture, it supports manufacturing, it supports all the other service industry. So that is our theme for this year. We are still open for registration at the tourismconference.org, but very soon we shall be closing registration, because our target initially when we started was 500 delegates. Already we are approaching 800, so very soon we shall be closing tourism. I encourage all tourism stakeholders from Kenya that have not yet registered, the tour operators, the travel agents, the hoteliers, please go and register at the tourismconference.org before we close out. Thank you.
All right. And tourism also influences diplomatic relations, right? It also does that for countries. So
indeed, as Esther hinted on it, these days we do what we call economic and commercial diplomacy. We no longer do a lot of what we in the past we used to call political diplomacy, where I would be sending political reports to the capitals. These days I don't need to send a political report to Kampala. It's all on the internet. I don't need to write about Mandamano in Nairobi. It's already, everybody knows about that.
Yeah.
So our key role these days as diplomatic missions is to promote tourism, trade, and investment. That's what we call economic and commercial diplomacy. We want more Kenyans to visit Uganda. That is tourism promotion. We want Kenya to buy more Ugandan products. That is trade. We want more Kenyans to go and invest in Uganda. That's investment promotion. That's our key role these days as diplomatic missions.
All right, and vice versa.
And vice versa.
I mean, you guys are just telling us to go. You're not telling them to come. And
well,
vice versa.
I'm a consul general of Uganda in Kenya, but we have created very strong partnerships with the tourism stakeholders in Kenya. The Kenya Association of Tour Operators, the Kenya Association of Travel Agents, the Kenya Association of Hotel Keepers and Caterers. All these members of the private sector, the county governments at the Kenya coast. There is no county government I have not been to. There is no governor I have not met. There's no country executive committee member responsible for tourism and trade that have not met. Because we work together. They are supposed to promote Kenya as I promote Uganda.
All right. I will allow you to give us your parting shot, just your final remarks as we finish, in the fewest of words.
Okay, we welcome all of you to go and register at www.thetourismconference.com. We'll be having the golf tournament on the 9th. Last time, Uganda beat Kenya, so Kenya, all the golfers come on board. And welcome to the 20th and 21st of the conference in Uganda. We love you.
Okay. Final remarks, sir?
Really thank you for hosting us this morning to talk about tourism, and also to join Esther in encouraging as many tourism stakeholders, as many golfers. We have an exhibition. If you want to exhibit in Monyonyo, approach us. We have a very limited number of booths for exhibition. So let's promote tourism, let's promote economic growth in our two countries.
Amazing.
Thank you once again for hosting.
Thank you so much for gracing our show today. We really appreciate that you took your time to come to the show today. This is where we end Good Morning Kenya for today. Thank you so much to each and every one of you who has been part and parcel of the show. Right now, we say goodbye, but we want to leave you with the weather updates. Goodbye.
Unakuanga na wivu na sisi.
Wivu gani? Ukweli ni wivu.
Utaki tuoane. Hii harusi ilikuwa yako.
Hata uliniuliza hivyo.
Wewe ulikuwa unakuja kuoa.
Uliniuliza hivyo nikakwambia.
Wewe kwa hivyo uko na bwana. Of course. Na unataka na ulinisika hiyo siku hata kabla nionje honeymoon.
Hiyo ndo yanafanyikanga. Ukifunja sheria hakuna sheria anakata ni msumeno anakata bando yote mbili. Iwe wewe ni newlywed, iwe wewe ni oldwed, wewe sheria watafuata ama wataingia ndani.
Siku yako itafika.
Mtakiwa wa pili
siku yako itafika.
Wewe una hiyo kisungu yote. Akatupea mbasa iko na simu.
Greetings in the name of the Most High Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice,